She can't.
How you doing, sir?
Hanging in there. How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah. I'll be good if you're hanging around.
Don't say that.
Good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock and you are watching the September 27th edition of the Celebration Residential Owners Association Board meeting. It is just now 6 o'clock. So we will get started. Lauren has properly noticed. It was properly noted. And we actually have everybody here tonight, so we do have a quorum, correct? And stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call the meeting now to order. It's 2:02-ish. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. We're going by Lauren's official watch. Anyway, so the first thing now, the next thing on the agenda is the owner comments. So we have 4 people in the audience that have signed in that would like to speak. If there's anybody online, raise your hand or send a message to Lauren and we'll get to you. So the first person that signed in and wants to speak is Rick Hemick.
Present.
Welcome. If you'd state your address, please, that'd be great.
We'll do that. I wanted to just look at you for a moment so you can look at me. I've been a resident for 20 years, but you don't see me. I'm invisible. I usually work with the management people over the years. I wrote out my comments because I know I'm limited to 3 minutes, so I'm going to try to do this quickly and hopefully it won't be too monotone. So good evening. My name is Rick Amick. I'm a homeowner and resident approaching 2 decades at 732 Oak Shadows Road, a 2-story standalone residence in East Village. Thank you, the CROA board, for allowing me to address you for a few moments to represent myself and many of my fellow residents where I live concerning one of the evening's board agenda actions required, specifically B4 under section 8. Regarding motion to approve the landscaping improvements at Pennywell Park. I'm working on this project behind the scenes with management groups for 20 years. This issue was brought before this board back on Tuesday, March 21st, this board, by Brian. And at that, the board directed him to come up with a plan and the board would approve it. So we're hoping that it's going to take place. Preparing for this meeting, you will have probably read the details of the motion. The written motion is well written and comes with a recommendation to move forward with a recommendation and support of Grand Manners Management, and it has passed our approval. A part of the motion states that the residents around this park have been waiting many years for it to be brought up to community standards. And everything I have just stated sounds like this seemingly forever outstanding issue has been vetted out to the point to where there should not be any doubt that this motion should carry unanimously, but we residents want to be reassured. So hopefully the following brief history will further encourage the board and give the board comfort that this is necessary and good money spent by Celebration by offering a moment of explanation as to how this park of Pennyroyal deteriorated to the point that it part of a ghetto neighborhood in a large city, not a pristine community such as ours. I also thought it was important to address you because with today's media, I don't know how you're going to do that. Front porch, back, side, back. Amazing. I don't know how you, I appreciate your good work. Originally, the park met Celebration standards, had beautiful Bermuda grass, was nicely landscaped flower beds. For those unfamiliar with Pennyroyal, it is what is considered a passive park. But what makes this park particularly unique is that it is one of probably 3 parks in Celebration that directly extends from residents' front yards with a perimeter sidewalk that eventually gets us out to our street and mailboxes. It's a fairly large park, high slice, shaped with the longest side, with a slight arc along and directly connected to our front yards along Oak Shadows Road. The shorter arch and is next to Pennyroyal Street, hence the park received its name Pennyroyal. Between 2002 and 2005, the park continued to sink into the shape of a very large soup bowl to the point whenever it rained or the irrigation ran, the park would fill with water and flood out onto our sidewalks into our yards filled with mosquitoes and snakes, making it treacherous to transfers to walk out to our mailboxes.
Mr. Hammond, I am so sorry. That little noise you heard was your 3 minutes. I'm terribly sorry.
Okay. There have been some actions taken since then that make the park worse. It looks terrible. It needs to be.
Take care of that.
And if you would like more back up online, but I thought the expenditures, when you prorated out over 20 years, it was
Worth it.
worth it.
Right.
And that's why the residents asked me to give you a history.
We're with you.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Oh, no, I hadn't timed it. I didn't realize I only had 3 minutes until I walked in here.
Mr. Gary Hudspeth, come on down.
Thank you. Gary Hudspeth, 1471 Resolute Street. I note on the agenda that the board is considering adding an additional member to the Recreation Committee, which is authorized up to 7 people. I also ask that you consider adding additional people to the Covenants Committee, which is also authorized up to 7 people. In case you haven't noticed, the Covenants Committee has been convened and operating for some time now with only 4 members. You appointed 5, but only 4 are participating. And I think it's time to go ahead and fulfill the obligation to increase them to 7 members.
Thanks, Gary. Next we have friend Jim Pinot.
That part of this 3 minutes?
No, that was less than.
I could see you.
Teasing.
Jim Pinot, 2293 Celebration Boulevard. I am here representing residents by the village. First, you are voting tonight on whether to keep the IV Fitness Center open 7. But we have still not received the detailed restrictions for our fitness center, which includes a comment about if you violate, there may be consequences. All we have are 2 signs in the front talking about age and things like that. So I would encourage, even if you do vote positive, you wait until more restrictive requirements are brought into that fitness center. We still have young kids coming in, still have people letting their friends in. We still have people now wearing athletic wear or sneakers. So I would encourage that. The pool and park area, again, you have red ants all over the place. I thought they were going to get sprayed on a regular basis, but they have not been. Landscaping, we have many issues, but I will refer you to Corey's email that he sent to you earlier today. Walkway around the pond behind the pool, there are lights. They haven't been working for months. A lot of residents have complained. You have dead and overgrown plants and bushes throughout, erosion due to irrigation issues in the past, and ponds have garbage. All the ponds have garbage. The Bridge to Highland Village lights on one side of the bridge have also been out for months. Trees in front of stop signs, I know that's not a CROA issue, but we have been going after Mattamy and CCDD for almost a year to get those trees so they don't block the stop signs. With the grammar school now open, it is that much more of an issue. We still have old green street signs, which again, I know is not a CROA issue, but we're looking for support because we should have the standard celebration street signs in Island Village. When Future Wave came in, they got it immediately. I'll bring up the AC units at the apartments. A lot of residents are complaining because they're not being covered. Like the residents have to cover their AC units. And when they're not covered, they create a lot of noise. And the homeowners right next to the apartments are getting all of that. Other vote tonight, grills at the pool. This has never been an issue. Natural gas. If you cannot put a timer, right? Oh, I'm sorry. If you can't put a timer on that, then I think those grills should be pulled out. And charcoal grills should be put on the side by the screening porches. Because just using it for town hall, those grills will be there. Every apartment new resident that comes in complains that they can't use that grill, and as well as homeowners. So I would say if you can't use them with a timer, stop it, because I know we don't have monitoring. We should get them out of there.
Thanks, Jim. I knew that was you sitting in the back. Now, Bonet? Really?
Yes,
Only speak about 12 times.
I'll take a line and say you made a mistake.
Hi, Mark. State your address, please.
I'm at 1585 Castile in Spring Lake. More information purpose. My son was telling me today that he's getting letters and other people get letters from attorneys regarding petty litigation, which usually happens once a project or phase gets within 10 years old. Me being a lender of 30 years doing home loans, I know what this does to values. Anyone looking to get a home equity line, as soon as the litigation is filed, the lender gets an HOA certification form and they see petty litigation, that's going to kill your loan. So anybody who wants equity line or do any sort of financing now, litigation may be coming, I don't know, months from now, 6 months from now, year from now. It's in the beginning stage of happening because in Spring Lake, we're at the 10 years. And every project within that 10-year rules will in HOAs face the lawsuits. So information purpose.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in the room that didn't check their box? Okay, we'll move towards the people that are online. Andrew, are you there? Deganzik?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, good.
Go ahead.
Andrew Deganzik, 1127 Mosaic Drive. Just 3 bullets to touch on tonight. First one is the action item B2, the motion to approve, reject turning over CROA privately held common areas to the potential Celebration municipality. This one's really vague for you guys, so I don't know what conversation is going to be around it tonight, but on one side I would say, yeah, I think CROA should be open to it, but in reviewing the Celebration CCDD feasibility study, that resulted in over an $850,000 shortfall in the first year and a multi-million-dollar shortfall over the first 5 years. So while, yes, the board and future CROA boards can entertain moving land over to them or common areas, I think currently with their plan and what's been provided is insufficient for us to take anything to the homeowners for a specific vote or anything of that nature. So, something that I think future partnership with the CCDD on if that's a route of incorporation to take. But at this time, I see that as a non-starter for all Celebration homeowners. Second item is B7, motion to approve moving forward with lease agreement with Lexan. Over 100K is pretty steep for the annual coverage for the Grand Manners employees. So just curious in your conversation tonight, is any Grand Manners employees working from home, or has there been as much minimizing as possible to try to keep that expense down while we as a community figure out what the future of the community town center would look like and things of that nature? And then last item is B12, motion to approve the MBV bid to design and coordinate and certify the CCFC repairs. I don't know if this is a recommendation from Grand Manners or not, but it seemed like they were putting forward that we should go with a $20,000 bid for the design with MBV, yet Land Tech Group is providing 2 bids as far as 2 options of how to proceed. So is there a reason why MBV couldn't provide what their estimate is so you can do an apples to apples comparison with Land Tech Group, or is there something else going on there that we don't know about? So not sure if you guys can hash that out a little bit later in the conversation. And then the other thing, I'm not an expert on this, but I think there was a 6-inch versus 10-inch option on what would go under the soil. I'm not an expert there, but if anyone is, understanding, is the 10-inch that much better than the 6-inch, or is 6-inch more than enough to cover the requirements? So that's all I had for you guys tonight. Appreciate your hard work on the budgeting to get it to today and keeping the number fairly low for homeowners. So thank you for your time.
3 minutes exactly. Pretty good, Andrew. Okay, last but not least, Dick Larson. Hi, Dick.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I had a brief comment regarding item B2 incorporation. I reviewed the joint.
Your address, please. Your
Pardon
address.
me?
Address before you get started. Sorry.
Dick Larson, 1112 Mosaic Drive. I reviewed the joint CDD CROA meeting last week, and I believe a vote indicating willingness to transfer CROA properties to municipality is extremely premature. The information presented in that meeting in no way create a compelling reason to incorporate. In fact, there are at least 7 questions I believe need to be answered before even starting the road to incorporation, since it's a one-way street which cannot be reversed. First question, what is the benefit? Schools, fire, and police will likely remain the same as today. What's the reason to start the process? 2, how would the municipality be organized? We heard that CNOA, CROA would still remain, so how do their roles change in incorporation? Who does what? Who has vetted the cost estimates of a municipality? We heard estimates in the joint meeting, but without a clear picture of the organization, the costs could surely change. Fourth question, why have some HOAs converted to incorporation, but then regretted it and wanted to reverse it only to find out they could not do so? Question 5, how and if can covenants be enforced in a municipality form of government? Would we lose the control of the look and feel of celebration due to this effort? 6, what is the risk or downside of making celebration amenities and assets open to the general public, which would be required? And finally, 7, why would we be willing to turn over CROA assets to a municipality when we haven't even started or completed the master plan development? So I'm not pro or con on municipality, but I believe we're severely lacking in due diligence to even start the process. And that if we want to start the process, all that due diligence should be done, well before we consider any asset transfer. Finally, one comment on the master plan. Regarding the baseball field community center discussion, also from the joint meeting, I think that discussion also is really premature. We had an extremely strong request from the community over the last 18 months for a master plan. And I hope we would go through that process before rushing to decisions on any particular amenity, as was discussed in the joint meeting. CCCDD, I'm glad that we're all working together. They have valuable input and knowledge that we can use in the master plan, but they should provide that input to the plan, because I think ultimately CROA is the owner of the master plan development, and we should proceed that way. So that's it. Premature on incorporation. Let's not rush to what to do with 851 Community Center baseball field till we've at least made some progress on the master plan development. The cost and the way to fund those amenities really comes second after we find that amenity list. So thanks for the opportunity to speak, and thanks for all your efforts on these projects.
Thanks, Dick. Good to see you. Anybody else? Last call. All righty. Next is adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion for discussion.
Okay. Garrett made a motion to adopt for discussion, and Bill. Discuss.
The only thing I wanted to add was an update on our contracts, our general contractor contracts, from conversations I've had with Tom recently, and I wanted to update the board on that. I didn't know if you wanted that to come while Tom is still here at the beginning, or it can go to the end of the discussion. It's a very short topic.
Is this on the playground?
Well, yes, but it's in general. It's for all of our contracts going forward.
Oh.
But it's just a discussion item. It's nothing to do anything on.
Do you have anything else to do tonight or?
I'm here for you guys, whatever you have, whatever you need.
Okay. Maybe we'll squeeze you in after the management update. How's that?
Sure.
And then
Whatever
you
the
can
board's
leave
pleasure.
when you're done. Okay, anything else on the agenda? So Sherry, is that okay?
Yeah.
Try to squeeze it?
Yep.
Can we look at 7 consent agenda? The motion to approve O&R. Can we pull that up for discussions? Can we pull it off and put it under B or B? Yes, action required. Yes. Can we do the same for number 6?
Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Move 6,
my,
move 6 and 7 to action required.
Why are we doing this tonight? Because we've had this for a week. We sent it out to the residents and now we're making last minute changes. Why didn't we do this before?
First of all, I was going to ask to move 6 to an action item. I thought I had, but apparently I had not. So that's why.
Well, it is an action.
I can't speak for.
It is an action item.
I know.
Just
I was
looping it as
moving it,
separate.
yeah, just moving it to different category because I have some questions that have popped up and I don't know why Charles waited till now to ask.
Well, yeah, you can't speak for him. It was rhetorical.
Okay, if we're late today, it's because you.
So,
And forget it, just leave it.
No, he's just being Jim. It's okay. No harm, no foul. Okay,
we're gonna
anything
move
else?
6 and 7 to action required.
Right.
So I revised my motion to all of that.
So we're going to move 6 and 7 from the A section to B section.
So I just make a comment moving forward.
Sure.
When we started the consent agenda, that was for more routine items.
Right.
So I think any item that might have some discussion or that is not as routine should never be in a consent agenda.
That's why we send the agenda out over a week ahead of time to get feedback on what you want to pull off. So then we can create the packet. So it's
Right, as
minimal
clean as
changes
possible.
at the board meeting. So the community is well aware of what's happening.
So to say that in a different way that Lauren has been saying is that we need to do our responsibility the week before this meeting to make sure this agenda is proper, so we're not doing this.
So sometimes discussion does come up as we're reading this. So that's my comment on that. But like I said, I'm sorry. I'm fine with you want to keep it on there. I don't
No, that's okay. No. I mean, it's still an action item. We're just moving it to a different
So
place.
we're
on the
moving
agenda.
6 and 7 to regular,
Right. To the action.
not part of consent.
Correct. And Jared, you amended your motion, or Bill, are you okay with that?
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay. I am.
Who's that, Jim?
Jim's.
I have a question. What's this gonna become on the action required? What number? We're gonna go
I
over
was gonna make it the first 2.
like 1A?
You can call it whatever you want.
Don't make it the first 2 because I promised CCDD that first 2 items that we've done.
To make it
3 and 4.
make it 2A and 2B?
That would be 2A and
After
then 2B and 2C.
2A, and 2B.
Okay, so that's becomes 6 and 7. All right. Everybody but Jim. Moving on to the minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes, one from July where we had a little adjustment, and then one from the August meeting. Do I have a motion for one and or both of these?
Motion for both.
Is that Jared?
Seconded.
Jim? Any discussion? Any corrections? Anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Financials. Miss Jennifer is with us all the way from Las Vegas.
Good evening, everybody. So the August financials, unfortunately did end with a deficit of about $75,000. We had some low income. We didn't have as many house sales this time, and we had some high expenses. The high expenses were in areas that we expect, electricity for the summer, pool chemicals that are still high, and landscaping. However, we did get to invest another $1 million from capital into a ladder form and earning an average of 5%, 5.1%. So we completed that in September. The fund balances currently is operating has 2.1 million. The reserves has 2 million and the capital has 3.3 million. Anybody have any questions for me?
You're allowed to ask questions here?
Sure.
I don't want to fill that in my homework. So what the CCFC in East Village for the month ending, was there something that drove those specifically? CCFC, I'm looking at, that was 104%, East Village 124% under maintenance.
Yeah, the resanding of the fields was one piece that was more expensive, and there was a lot of weed issues in the East Village.
What was statutory notice delinquent mailing? Not budgeted at all?
No, it is not budgeted at all.
Not budgeted at all. It's in your 24 budget, but
Okay, so, okay.
What was that? I'm sorry.
it's a
Charlie.
statutory notices for delinquencies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the actual is 26,000. We budgeted 0. But
I think that's one of those things that used to be under that innocuous miscellaneous line. We've been trying to pull things out of there.
okay. Thank you.
It took 21 days to receive financials this month, and that seems to be excessive. Then what can we do to correct that so that we're getting within?
It was excessive. It was excessive this month, and I did apologize for that, and I will again. Because we've got new banks. There was a lot of movement with the new banks. There was movement with the investments in August, so that all had to be put in there correctly. And then we had a little bit less eyes looking through the financials with our manager being gone. So it just took a little bit longer to get through.
Okay, so that'll be different.
Yes.
So contractually, we have to give it to you by the
Yes, contractually, I have to get it to you by the 20th, which I did. However, my goal is to get it to you no longer than the 15th, and I still stand by that. That is the goal, and I should be able to reach that most months unless there's something a little extra. So August was just a little bit more complicated. So again, I apologize. It took me a little bit longer to get that completed.
Thank you.
A question on version 12 of the 2024 draft budget, which we are going to be circulating. I just want to confirm that the investment income now captures everything that we've done on the finance committee. In other words, there isn't going to be any more going into that. That's the full number. I think it's 175,000.
That's correct. That's
That included the transaction.
Anybody else? Great. Any other comments, Lauren or Jen? All right. Thank you. Okay. Management update. Lauren.
Currently, we have 2 maintenance vacancies. We just made an offer for one of them. The other one, we are actively interviewing. We have a vacancy for a park and pool monitor that's a full-time and a vacancy in 2 part-time park and pool monitors. But I will note that those are the 2 part-time positions that we are deleting in the 2024 budget. So we're not really actively looking for them. They've been difficult to maintain qualified, reliable people in those positions. So it's not worth the headache of trying to continually onboard new people and consistently train. The town hall project is on hold, awaiting the master plan advisory group. Island Village signage has arrived and is being installed. Other deeded parks, such as Squiggles Playground and other pocket parks, have had estimates approved for landscaping work, and we were kind of holding on that, trying to work out some of the irrigation issues out there that we're facing, and we're finally moving forward with those. Trying to set up a meeting with TCC, and CCDD just appointed a liaison to Mattamy, so we're setting up a joint meeting with that. Basically, Jared's been sending out playground updates on the Monday Matters, and I'll let him talk about that. CCFC, you've got the the bid for owners repping. You've also got that, the bid for that a company came and did a walk, and it's just a generic what their ballpark of the project cost would be, just so we have some ROM numbers when you're approving an owner's rep. Spring Park soil erosion, you have that bid on this agenda as well. Deer Woods, you have that bid as well. Covenants, they've done 271 initial inspections, 405 re-inspections, 54 resales, 100 ARC inspections, and 44 complaint inspections. ARC has processed 101 applications, 66 were online approvals, 11 were online disapprovals, 16 were meeting approvals, and 8 meeting disapprovals. We assisted 1,096 residents in person at Town Hall over the last month. 1,900 phone calls were answered and over 2,000 emails were responded to. You had a gross sales of $1,076 and change for the month of September at the Logo store, and new merchandise was just issued out by Campus Customs. For Sella service, there were a total of 122 tickets put in over the last month. Of those, 42% were completed, 10% are in progress, 20% were just received when I ran this report, and 28 are submitted and usually waiting a vendor action to address. I will say Brian's new maintenance supervisor that we hired has been hitting the ground running. The guys are out staining all the benches, which requires them to pull apart all the wood lats, remove them from the metal framing, sand, repair any pieces, and restain, and then put the benches back together. So that's a highly intensive process that they're doing. They're painting all the garbage cans, painting all the doggy pots. They're moving through that with whatever pops up that day as well. They're also heavily working on North Village right now, so they're making progress. Their current kind of plan of action is based on the inspections that you guys were all provided in your team's account. So we inspected every park and amenity center, noted the deficiencies, and Brian's group is hitting all of those as quickly as possible.
So when you say North Village, you're talking about all the things that there's been chatter about the painting and the doors and all the things that have come to light over the last several months.
Yes. Great. So a lot of other work being done, but for the sake of time, it's all packet.
You're doing a lot of good work. Thank you.
Did I read in there that the inspectors are now doing on-site processing of their violations? Did I read that?
On-site processing
of the violations for covenant?
I mean, we process them on site. We have.
Oh, I got all excited. I thought the software.
We hit a snag with the software, and we're working through that. So, Jim has a question.
I just, John, the chair of the technology committee, isn't here and has been my way. I would rather someone that was actually doing the work talk about it. So if, I talked to Jose earlier, and he said he would go over a few things, couple big things that we want to make sure people know we're looking at, and some of the advantages. So can you go up there?
So we've moved on to committee and partner.
Yeah, I have a, sorry, we're still in the management report.
Well, no, this is the management update, but it came before. So I wanted him to make sure he did the update as part of the management update. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Just let Charles ask his question, then we'll have Jose do it.
You can go on. That's
go ahead, Charles.
No, I'm done sleeping on. Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
You can go.
Okay, folks, so Jose Otero, Director of IT. And there's a lot going on in Celebration, a lot of good things. So the good news is that we completed Notwithstanding two access point, we have all sites now with Wi-Fi capable and ready. So the last one was Heritage Hall. We had some issues structurally with running the wires, but we still have two more runs left and we're done with Wi-Fi.
Can you specify which locations?
So at the moment, Spring Lake, Lakeside, East Village, Heritage Hall, CCFC, Town Hall, they're all retrofitted with Wi-Fi. So they're all complete. Thank you. The items that are pending are the digital signage screens that belong at North Village and Heritage Hall. Once we're done with those two, then we'll proceed with the remaining sites. There is some electrical involved, so we have to get the electrical done first and then deploy the screens. In terms of the website, I do have some updates. So we got in contact with the previous vendor, that's IDIQ, that's Steve Tellerico. And his technician, Ganu, is going to assist us with getting that DNS registrar handed over to us. So that'll trigger the website change from the invention up to that. In terms of EV charging, we got in contact with Doug Nelson, who's our manager. We're going to engage in calls with the tech committee on board to make several changes and transitions to other locations to move some of those EV chargers to other locations. I know there's some involvement with CCDD.
Well, I think we're going to get prices for having them moved and prices for just pulling them out.
Right.
So we want to see the numbers first, but yeah, there is some impetus for that.
Yeah, so there's a meeting that we're going to schedule and engage in those initial discussions. In terms of ONR and some GoGov training modules are being in development right now. So we do have a portion of it complete, and we're just reviewing it, making sure that everything's streamlined. Key card access, which is the hardware that we're looking to replace with our current key card access. We are doing final revisions of two vendors in specific. And when I say we, I mean myself and the tech committee. And we're gathering estimates and doing final review and 100%. And
That's for digital. The biggest reason for that is the digital IDs.
Yeah, so at present, you're all using key cards to access your amenities. So the idea is to get a piece of technology that will let you use your phones as an NFC reader. So then you can just tap your phone and you can access whatever amenities you want to go to. All right. You can still use a card, but it's completely optional. It's just, just riding the time with the new technology and bringing something new and refreshing. In terms of security, Island Village does have video surveillance now. It is active. However, there's one camera that needs to get replaced. They're waiting for the parts to come in. And by them, I mean Viking Security. They're the ones who originally installed it. So they were kind enough to help us out and get that ironed out. Once that camera is installed, then we start working the process of creating the alert system so that we can get notifications over the course of the evening. And that's what I have for now.
That's it?
Well, there's a whole lot more.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. Thank you very much for doing that tonight.
You have anything else on the management?
No.
Well, it's been a while since we got rid of Saturday hours. Are the evenings that were open now doing well? I mean, are people coming in after work?
It's foot traffic. I mean, not a lot, similar to what we had on Saturdays, but they get foot traffic. I know there was some discussion about wanting to get some community feedback on that one. So I don't know, after
budget season,
we can revisit.
I'll ask, so going back to the seller service, the 42% completed, what does completed mean? Is completed actually handing it off to like a partner like CDD? Is it CROA actually completing it? What actually defines completed?
So for items that are CROA items, when we mark it completed, it means we've corrected the item completely.
So you've taken it out of the denominator.
Yeah. So if it's a CDD item, we reassign it to the CDD individuals and they're able. This is not any CDD numbers. These are solely CROA numbers.
So 122 all CROA.
Yes.
How many were handed off? Just out of curiosity, do you have that handy?
It's usually a little bit higher than our number but around the same.
So these are
Completed
means you're
completed means we've done it. So there are items that are not included in these numbers and not included in the CDD numbers where people are putting in items that the apartment complexes need to address or the condo associations need to address. We complete those, but we pass them off onto the other associations and say, here, this is an issue that was raised by the community, because I don't have any mechanism for tracking a broken light in an apartment complex.
Next question, can you go more granular, like double clicking into this to see like what's landscape versus?
Oh yeah,
there's okay. So maybe, I mean, it's worth double, that would be a value. Just so we can kind of see what's being completed, what's not, what's being held up, if there's any trend. Just food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that are taking more time to complete are like the biggest examples I have are the light that's down in Spring Park and the light that's been down at Town Hall, because we were on vendors for that, and then we have to wait for the board meeting for that to be approved and then completed. So a lot of the time, things that take longer to address are vendor, we rely on the vendor, or we have to wait for a board action.
And that's exactly it, like 9.4 days, like what's on the long end as landscaping, what's on the short end, and then again, what can we do from a board perspective to get this done? So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Moving on to section 7, committee and partner updates, committees. I wasn't at the covenants committee yesterday, not yesterday, last week. But I will say that tomorrow night we are having a joint session between ARC and the covenants committee because their responsibilities overlap, and it is part of the it's actually stated in the charter that they should meet off and on just so they can, share what's been an issue, what, they see as an issue in the covenant side, but there's an issue in the ARC side, or what needs to be, guidelines need to be revised or whatever. So that's tomorrow night. But as I said, I wasn't at the meeting this Thursday. First one I've missed. Celia, did you have anything exciting that happened at the meeting that I missed?
It was
Covenants meeting.
Covenants meeting. They just run very smoothly.
If I could add, for tomorrow's meeting, it's what's trying to be done is that the covenants has enforcement issues and ARC has enforcement issues. And we're trying to iron out differences that'll make them go smoother. Also, they're looking at making recommendations for some of the ARC requirements to be modified or changed a little bit to recognize that the community is older, we have more experience. So they're looking at different modifications to some of the requirements, and that's really what the discussion is about. Matter of fact, there's so many things on the list tomorrow. We'll be here on Friday morning and working on it.
David, you don't have a committee, so we'll bypass you. Charles?
I missed the last 2 meetings, unfortunately. One was at 30 or 11 in the morning during work hours, and then we had a joint session last meeting. Yeah, CDD CROA, so unfortunately, the recording.
So they're making good progress.
Yep.
I only,
That's it. Okay. Jared?
there was no dog park meeting, and the finance committee has finished the budget and presented that to us, and we're going to be talking about that later.
DCBD.
So, I reported to them that we had it on the agenda to vote on the 2 things that they requested at our joint meeting. I thank them for the joint meeting. As Lauren mentioned, they reached out to me to find out if we had a liaison to Mattamy, which we do, and they got connected, and so they will be working together. A lot of this, with the emphasis, will be on Island Village.
Foundation, Kathleen.
I just add a few other things too.
Oh, sure.
Sorry,
She's okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Yep.
Greg Fowler from CDD. So just a few other things. We did have a meeting last Thursday, invited Lauren and Cindy as well on with the Sheriff's Department, talking specifically about some of the continued issues that we're hearing in town with between electric bikes, electric scooters, as well as trespassing issues. Particularly on the e-scooters one, the 30-second Reader's Digest version I'll give is the law is incredibly confusing. I got 9 pages from the Sheriff's Department attorney, all of which were discombobulated and disconnected. The sheriff's next tasker is to go to his attorney and try to get a 1-page cheat sheet that they can distribute through their social media or whatever else, and then we can help echo that through the towns to kind of enforce what the rules are and are not. And then what I asked for next beyond that is even if we need to engage the county attorney, and I bring my attorney in if you guys obviously want to come into the conversation as well, if there are any gaps and seams between the laws that we as a community think that a county ordinance could help fill for what we think would be reasonable going forward, we'd be open to that conversation. So truth in advertising, that will take some time. Whenever you get 4 attorneys in a room from 4 different organizations, it's going to be a little slow. Tom's a fast mover, but we'll get through it as quickly as we can. The trespassing one, also, we understand there's been some concerns over the past few months. The captain provided some comments about handling some of these as one-offs, but I think there are some more systemic things we could do, at least from our perspective on CDD property, with being able to enforce some trespassing issues. Island Village, Jim did mention the turnovers for us are starting. We did a conditional turnover of part of phase 1A. Mattamy is scrambling to get some of the stuff off of their books. I will say that that does not include everything in phase 1A and does not include anything in phase 1B. But what I would recommend to you all is, in particular with Lauren, you may want to get with Angel and figure out exactly what that is, because off the top of my head, I got to be honest, I'm not sure without looking at the cheat sheet as well. But for CROA's perspective, to begin enforcement of covenants, as they start coming on street trees and everything else as those come over to homeowners' property. And certainly, as the gentleman's comment before, we've heard it loud and clear as far as being able to start doing some of the cleanup on our side to the extent that we do that through the rest of the town. We're just waiting for some of those things to get turned over, which has begun. We do have Dave Hume as the liaison on that. Third thing, obviously, you've got the conversation tonight on incorporation. I'll just remind everybody, I did hear some folks on the line. What we've asked CROA for is simply a conditional vote. If incorporation were to happen, then whatever it is you guys want to say as far as turnover. Tom and I had even had a conversation after the joint meeting the other night. If you wanted to throw additional conditions in there, listen, it's your document to write. We are simply the recipients of that and incorporating that into the overall report. To the concerns from the community that, hey, the report's not completed. What we had presented almost a year ago now or reviewed was a draft report. We are well aware there are a lot of gaps in there. A lot of those gaps are because we don't have this information. So I know it seems like we're doing a cart before the horse. We're really not. We need to have this piece first in order. Finally, on GoGov, obviously you've got it on your agenda this evening. We haven't got any feedback. If there are obviously any concerns or negotiating items or anything like that, we'd be happy to receive those. If there's any commentary on that, our attorneys stand by to take that and to try to work those in. We've actually already started getting some tickets, even though we haven't done a formal cutover. Angel told us last night she's already getting a good bit of traffic going through that, so it does seem to be working so far.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. I was under the impression at our workshop when we were talking about incorporation, I don't know if it was Angel or Jan that said, well, we want to know from you guys if you're on board with incorporation or not, because we could either move forward or just put it to sleep. Did I misunderstand that?
So let me, and Tom, maybe you can help me with the phrasing here. CROA doesn't have, as a board, does not have a vote in incorporation. The question is simply, if a municipality were to form, would CROA consider turning over all, none, some of your assets, responsibilities, all that? Again, the CDD board, and I want to foot stomp this. We don't care. We don't have a stake in the fight. We are simply being told by state law we need to do this analysis. This is going to ultimately go to all the residents and to the state legislature to determine that. Really what we're looking from you is any conditions you would put on turning any of this over, because the reality is CROA does own a lot of assets, responsibilities, and authorities that a municipality traditionally would have. So in order for this to make sense, we need to understand what of that would turn over. How was that?
Yeah, that's basically it. You're being asked to decide if you turn over. We've had this discussion at the last meeting, and I think with other individual board members. Would you want to turn over all of your common areas to a new city? Would you want to turn over some of your common areas to a new city? Or would you want to turn over none of your common areas to a new city? So whatever decision you would decide is going to go back to the CCDD, and they're going to put it in a report. It's going to go to the state. And it is a process at the state level about whether or not it makes sense to incorporate. When Greg mentioned conditional, one of the things that the development district had asked me, which I said yes to, which is, could the membership, which would have to approve turning over the common areas, whether it's some or all, would it be a conditional vote where the vote would be, if you said yes, let's turn over our common areas, then the membership has to approve it. But it would be a conditional vote, which is not, okay, now it's turned over. It's subject to the state approving a new city and then having it turned over. So you have some information on that. You don't have all the information.
But if we say we don't want to turn anything over, it doesn't need to go to.
You say that, then that's going to be reported back to the CCDD, and they're going to include that in the report, and then they're going to send it to the state, and the state is going to review it and take that into consideration. You know, just speaking based on everything that I've heard, if the board says, no, we don't want to make the common areas public, some or all of them. No, based on the cost estimates that we've seen, it's just the homeowners are paying it, whether it's going to CROA or to the city, it doesn't make financial sense. That's fine. You can decide that. And then, you know, there's other issues. I was talking to Lauren, some of your parks and more importantly, your pools are not ADA compliant because they don't have to be right now. If they become public, you would have to make that. There's another cost. I don't know what all costs are included in there. I haven't looked at it. That's all a factor. So really the decision you're being asked to make is, is the majority of the board in favor of turning over some or all of the common areas or none of them to a new city, telling that to the CCDD today as soon as possible, and then including in a report. You may decide to turn over everything, and then the state says, no, we're not going to do it in the city anyway. But if you do decide that you would like to, then the next step would be to ask the membership for. We talked a little bit about it. It's a higher threshold vote than it is just to amend your documents to do an election. And it would be left to the membership to say yes or no. But if you as a board say, no, it doesn't make much sense, that's fine. You decide that, and you're just telling them yes, no, maybe to. Well, not maybe. He wants a yes or no on what common areas.
And just for clarification too, so it is a two-step process on the voting. The state legislature has to approve it, but would also come to the constituency of CDD as well, has to also go through and do a vote of that as well. So there's both of those organizations have to approve it. I would say too, the conditional piece of it, absolutely. That's what we had asked initially was, you know, do a conditional vote based on incorporation. If you chose to put other conditions in there, I know there were concerns about things in the report. So if you saw that report and said, hey, I don't like that thing, if, you know, we'd only condition it if, whatever you guys want to put in there as conditions, you guys are free to do that. It's your property. We're just asking.
Basically what Greg's telling you is he's just going to put it in the report and send it to this thing.
So he was asked to do.
Yeah, that's it. Any other questions?
I have one quick question. When Jim came up, was talking about the trees in Island Village that are blocking the stop signs. You folks don't own those yet? Is that why they can't be moved?
No, we don't. The only thing we own right now is the straight shot from the highway right before where the, and I don't know exactly where the cutoff is. With what we brought over last night, again, I need to re-review exactly what that is. But even the vote we did last night was conditioned on them still having an additional 90 days to fix a few things. There were some light issues, stuff like that. So it won't be 90 days until we actually accept anything. And even at that, it is only part of phase 1A.
So I don't know if Geeter Bend is doing anything. And obviously with Halloween that's coming up, is that anything there needs to be a coordinated effort on with CDD CROA? What's going on with that?
Great question. So that was another thing we brought up with the sheriff. So we've already started discussions even before Geeter Bend, obviously with Halloween. Typically I think last year we paid for 4 deputies out of our fund and they brought in about an additional 20. I know they've already started on that planning. The captain had an action to get back with his traffic lieutenant to get back to us on that. I don't think for Halloween there's anything in particular. Certainly if you guys have any concerns, let us know, get with Angel and put it in there. But I think don't think it's gonna be anything different than what we're used to seeing. And honestly, we fund them to do that. We don't design the traffic plan or anything else. It's guys just take resources and do what you need to do. Jeter Bend in particular, again, we can't do, we can't assign detailed deputies for a specific event at somebody's specific street or specific house. What we typically will do during the Christmas time is say, hey, generally, a lot of traffic, a lot of it tends to be in this area or this area, and keep an eye on that stuff. So we do add additional details, and that's what we search a lot of the deputies at that time. Last year, we also added on some of the peak nights, we actually had the fire department out as well with a pickup truck with an EMS kit. Again, just because some of the areas in East Village, getting artisan as well, have some access issues. So on the peak areas, we cover that as well. So if you guys have comments or concerns, certainly shoot over here, Rachel.
I think I mentioned it. I think that there should be some traffic control, like especially along Celebration Avenue. So the people that are trying to get out of the neighborhoods to leave or whatever, that there'll be a police presence there to break the traffic to say, okay, all you 30 people that are lined up on Spring Park Street, come on.
We've been careful. I've been careful to get out of the business of telling the sheriff's department how to manage traffic. We just simply point and say there's a traffic problem and we'll help you resource it. But really, I want to get them in the business of developing the solution. I mean, the other thing we approved last night as an example was the agreement for now snowing with downtown. Same type of thing. You know, I simply want to see that there is a safety plan that the sheriff's department is blessed off on, whatever that safety plan is between downtown and sheriff's.
So they're aware of the hotspots.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think anything proactive we need to do from the CROA side, communication wise too, just stay in front about it for during questions and all that. Absolutely, any coordination.
Great.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Now, there she is, Kathleen. Hello.
Hear me above the brain?
Yeah, really.
My name is Kathleen Scipio. I'm the executive director of the Celebration Foundation. I agree with Jose. There are a lot of good things happening in Celebration. Definitely community connection. I want to thank Lauren for attending last month. This is an initiative that started in January, and we have met about 200 residents through community connections since then. One of my questions that I asked them is, have you lived in a community with an HOA before? Please raise your hand. Most people do raise their hand. And then I asked them, have you ever lived in a community with community foundation? And all their hands go down. So it's my job to teach everyone really what a community foundation does. I can tell you what we did last month. We served students to seniors. Our Learning Without Hunger program serves 19 schools in the Osceola School District. We send weekend meal packs home every weekend for students in need. These are the students that get their free breakfast and free lunch and have food insecurity on the weekend. Reedy Creek is one of those 19 schools. They have red backpacks that they fill every week with volunteers, and the children go home and bring back the red backpacks empty every Monday. Since food is fuel, and children don't care what 4 times 4 equals if they're hungry, we just had delivered to Osceola County School District Warehouse today 25 pallets of snacks. Because even though we're sending weekend meal packs home and breakfast and lunch is being served at snack time during the school, these students don't have any. So they will be receiving applesauce pouches, granola bars, and cheese and peanut butter crackers. We could not do this without community volunteers that previously worked in the food industry, such as Mike Jackson, Save Alive, Osceola County School District, Osceola County Commissioners that grants us $70,000 annually, Advent Health Celebration that grants us $40,000 and individual contributions. We've been helping seniors by we found a place to call home for our Thriving in Place program again. We have signed a lease with Lexington at the 690 building, and we are having a ribbon cutting ceremony on October 4th, that you are all welcome to attend, anyone in the community, to hear about Friends of Thriving, and that is from 3 to 5 p.m. Celebration Lifelong, a program of the Celebration Foundation, had a star in town last Thursday at Community Presbyterian Church. It was Dr. Lori. She's a star antique appraiser, and 176 residents signed up to bring trash or treasures that they had in their home to be appraised. I will tell you this, some residents left very happy knowing that they had items on their dressers that were worth $1,500 each. Just these little trinket china holders. And another resident found out that she had a ring worth $15,000. Other residents found out that things that they thought were original artwork were really just a print, but win some, you lose some. And lastly, we are getting ready for the Holiday Home Tour and Winter Wonderland. We have over 12 stops on the tour. I want to thank all the homeowners that have volunteered to let 2,000 people walk through their home the first weekend in December. And I want to thank Grand Manners for working with us for stop number 1, Winter Wonderland, which will be at Heritage Hall. How can you help with the Holiday Home Tour? You can attend, you can be an ambassador, tell people to purchase a ticket. You can come to the VIP reception on Friday evening and purchase a donated and decorated tree by a resident in celebration, or you can build or buy a basket for the marketplace. With all the proceeds from that event, we put that into the Celebration Foundation programs and our community. And that gets me to say a lot of yeses when people ask for things. So when I received an email last week from Celebration K-8 that the kindergartner class were sharing iPad chargers, and they really needed to purchase them, the foundation was able to say yes because of the Holiday Home Tour Winter Wonderland. So I got to visit the school and see some kindergartners that crisscross applesauce, which I can do. I take a little bit longer to get up. But we could not do it without everyone in this community and the CROA board. So thank you.
Wonderful stuff going on. Okay. Moving on to our action items. The first category is the consent action item. Did someone want to make a motion to approve those in bulk without number 6 and 7, which have been moved?
Moved.
Second. Jim and Bill. Right from you, right? Oh, David. Jim has made a motion to approve all the action items as presented in section 8 and seconded by David. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Now we move on to the action items that require some discussion. Right, so the first one is motion to allow the CCDD engineering access to lot F, which I understand is actually lot B, on the civic corridor that we own, to evaluate the amount of developing acreage. And CCD is going to pay for this. It's lot E.
Yeah, E1 and E2.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Okay. Charles, is that you? Second?
Jerry.
Jerry.
Second.
Oh, that's my second. Yeah. Yeah. Any other discussion? Any discussion at all?
Just a couple of questions. This is an area that was looked at by this, if I'm correct, Celebration Hall group, and took a look at it, and that's part of their report. It's my understanding there are multiple easements on that property from Reedy Creek, Florida Wildlife, GCC, a handful of groups. So, and I think some of those are referenced in the Celebration Hall report. So, I support this motion, but just knowing that that's an area that adjoins North Village, if I understand correct. Right. And also, I think part of the language is that would require an iconic building to be there. And that's part of the history as I understand it.
We learned, I I think it's great. It's not zoned for a building, it's zoned for some, for.
So that's part of the Celebration Hall report. But anyway, I just think that goes into it. And I think all this is going to do is help look at what's developable. And I know that there's strictures around what could happen with that property.
Yeah, so there was some initial engineering that was done, I think, back in 2016-ish. So there was some beginning reports, but it wasn't a full topography and all sorts of stuff that needed to happen. So that's the delta needs to get covered. There were, and David, I heard the same thing about, hey, there's supposed to be an iconic building. There was an amendment to the deed, I think in 2014, that specifically excludes putting a building down. So it says in there it's intended for use for sports fields. There's language about ancillary buildings ancillary to the sports field. So if you start talking like bathrooms and things like that, but it excludes putting buildings on there now. So kind of flip that. Sorry, was there another question there?
I think what this does is gives information to CROA about what could go there.
And the whole kind of building was the buzz when we first got there.
Right.
Any other questions or comments?
Question from the audience.
Do we do audience for any of these?
We should. Anything we vote on?
Feel free to go to time.
The term says not F.
Right, it's there. That's why I said it's actually E1 and E1 or E1 and E2.
E1 and E2.
E1 and E2. I couldn't tell if you said D.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you, CCDD. Second, motion to approve or reject turning over CROA's privately held common areas to potential Celebration municipality. I think everybody understands what the motion is here. Do I hear a motion to something?
I'll make a motion to reject turning over CROA's privately held common areas to a potential Celebration municipality.
Would you say 12? Reject.
I will make a motion to reject turning over CROA's privately held common areas to a potential Celebration.
I'll second that.
I second. Billy beat you. I beat you.
Oh, you beat me? Okay. Okay, you got this.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm hesitant for the board to make this decision. I know that a number of people on this board believe that they know where the community stands. I'd like to at least do some sort of survey, kind of like we did with this, so it's one per household, get a sense of the community. That's why we were kind of asking about that earlier. That's my opinion.
So how could we, when we were in the joint workshop, it sounded like we had to put this to a community vote, right?
Not this.
Not
this.
Well, could we just do like a pulse check, like to Jim's point?
All we're, if I understood.
Like we reject it
right
now.
Yeah.
Like what happens? So if we approve
then
it.
they put that in, then Greg puts it in the form that they are mandated to send to the state.
So there's no middle step. It's either approve, reject, or no.
Well, no, we could say, okay, we're willing to turn over the pools, but at this point, it would be, you make things complicated and it's not necessary.
As I said before, you guys can put whatever conditions you want. Those amenities are owned by CROA. You can say if the sky's orange, we'll turn it over. Then that's what we put in the report. I mean, as far as whether or not you want to do a survey, that's the discretion of your board. We're just looking for.
But this is
what
not
the board is.
I think maybe Jim's concern is that if we say we're not going to turn anything over now, is that final? I mean, if it goes to the state and the state says, yeah, we want you to become a municipality, then does it come back to us and say?
So
no.
So your timeline, it sounded like you needed a decision tonight.
We've been asking the question for a good number of months, and I don't want to presume to do guess what the state's going to do, but based on everything we've been told, number one, the state legislature is adverse to incorporating CDDs because a lot of them have tried to reverse out because it didn't get whatever reason that was they incorporated in the first place. And there's no mechanism to do that. So what we have been told is that this will already be met with a scrutinous eye at the state legislature. So I don't expect that we're going to send a report to the legislature that says it doesn't make financial sense, it doesn't make governance sense, CROA's not going to turn anything over, and the legislature's going to say, great, turn it into a city. I don't think that's going to be the path. And even if it did, it still has to go to the residents to go to.
I guess because I agree with the motion that we don't want to turn anything over, and I think that's the consensus of the community, but I do agree that like we should ask. So like, Lauren, what do you think of, is it, and it's not a formal vote, do a poll like we did for the community feedback, but it is getting to every resident and getting us something back. I don't know, is that?
It's doable. I mean, if you could make it as simple as, are you interested in turning over CROA common areas to a potential municipality?
Yeah. Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Yeah, that's all we're looking for. That's all we have to say.
So I'll amend my motion then to put this to a poll to get the, I think how to word this motion. To put it out to a community poll to determine the overall temperature of should we turn over amenities or not in situation of potential municipality. Yes.
From a charter perspective, Tom is right. Whatever you decide to do, it's a survey. Make sure everyone understands it's non-binding because it requires a community vote if you do get rid of some property. So this survey is non-binding.
Right. And so is this.
So this would not be threshold vote. This would not be any.
Yeah, this is an official vote.
Informal.
It would be, in my mind, to confirm what many of us believe. I think that that a majority of our homeowners would support your motion to reject it. But I would feel more comfortable if we could spend a couple more weeks,
Even just a week.
even a week, yeah, something.
But
Well, the problem is then it's going to need to wait an entire month unless you guys are going to call a special meeting to then come back and take those results and do something with that.
even if the state comes back and says, yes, you will become a municipality, they're not going to tell us to turn over all of our amenities. Or any of that.
The state,
Or either way, they're not going to dictate one way or the other. That's when it will go before the vote of the community.
the state's going to look at the feasibility piece on the financials. They're going to look at what, if it goes past this phase, if you guys were to say, hey, yes, we want to do it, and hey, yes, there's a conditional vote of the community, hey, yes, the community wants to do this, and we see momentum in the report going in a positive direction, our next step would, or one of our many next steps would be, we actually need to form a proposed town governance structure. So there's a lot of other things behind this that if you guys were to have say yes tonight, and the residents were all to say yes and get a conditional vote, there's still a lot more before this even goes to the legislature. That goes back to the question of timing. You guys are not at the end of the road here. You're about the middle of the road because we still need to have the conversation formally with CROA, which I understand is resistant, but we haven't formally gotten the answer. We still need to do the town government. There's a lot of other things that go behind it.
Okay.
So this is not a, whatever we the board say tonight is not necessarily how it's going to end up.
So
right?
Yes. So,
okay.
But if the board says we're not going to submit it to the membership, we're going to decide tonight, we're not going to turn over any common areas, or we're going to turn over a few, but not all of it. That's going to go into the report. That's going to go up to the state, and that's going to be factored in. And if the state says no municipality, then yeah, that's it. If you say we're either waiting for a survey, then you have to make a decision later. And if that survey is a community that doesn't really want it, then you may decide, well, there's no point in spending 10 plus thousands of dollars to have a vote that requires a greater than a simple majority to approve it, since you already have a feel from a survey. But ultimately, what the CCDD wants is a decision, whether it's based upon a survey or anything else, whatever your basis is the board in favor of submitting it to the community to have a community-wide vote to turn over what common areas, anything, a little bit, all of it. But if you say no, then I think what Greg is saying, and I'm careful to not put too many words in his mouth, is the state may look at that as one of many reasons not to move forward with incorporation.
I'm going to go ahead and say, and again, this isn't Greg's opinion. This is what I'm getting from our consultant. The idea of incorporation already has a lot of headwinds.
It's a lot of what?
A lot of headwinds. There's a lot of things going against it because of the financial data we already got back, where there's a $700,000 or $800,000 deficit because of natural resistance. So,
And CROA doesn't go away.
No.
If we did incorporate, there would still be CROA.
Yeah, that's so for some people that may be thinking, if I said yes, CROA goes away and a new city takes its place. That is not at all the case. That is not all the case. If you think about almost every other city has homeowners associations in it. Cities are not designed to replace private homeowners associations. Usually the associations are created with the city already in place, and you end up having I don't know if it'll be an additional layer of government or replace most of what the CCDD does with maybe.
So I mean, our draft report already has it written up, and I think there's full concurrence from our board. If we were to incorporate the CDD, the only reason we would persist is for our bonds. Everything else,
right?
Our report has already recommended, our board has concurred with it. We would dissolve our field team. Everything else would go to the municipality.
Right, but CROA would still exist. So you'd still have all the private covenants and restrictions in place. You would still have all the architectural requirements in place, unless the membership decided, okay, as part of the new city structure, we're going to amend our documents and get rid of some of this with the expectation that the city would take over some of it. But the membership also has to approve all of that in a structure that the board would propose.
100%. And that's why I want to emphasize the other night in the joint meeting, it's not just a question of assets. It's also a question of responsibilities and authorities, because, you know, the municipality could conceivably take over some sort of covenants with code enforcement, or CROA could choose to keep covenants. That's up to you guys.
Takes over repairing the streets in Celebration.
County already has them. We would, for any of the county
Would
services,
we take on that burden if we become a city,
for any of
an incorporated city?
the initial go-in that we would have in our structured report is, we've already gotten concurrence from all the county services. We would get in, the municipality would get into interlocal agreements. So the road department today already pays all the roads, already maintains the roads. They have already said for $0 additional, because we're going to continue to pay our millage taxes after we incorporate, just as we do today. They would continue to maintain the roads. Same thing with the police department, the fire department, everybody else. Everybody has said, as long as you're not asking for additional things and additional services, the county will continue to do what it does at no additional cost.
So we are almost having the identical meeting that we had last week at this point. I think we need to either vote yes, no, or a survey.
Right, Charles, we're up.
Yeah, so what I would suggest, and this may modify your motion. Sounds like we need to vote tonight. And what I would suggest is that we do vote tonight and proceed with a survey. And then revisit that. And so this what goes into the language. Here's how the board voted tonight. A survey that's a straw poll, non-binding sense of residence. I'm going to give a suggestion on that, because it's not to me, it's not a yes, no. And then we do an update as needed in 1 month, and that can go in the report, knowing that the report could be updated. So my sense with the survey, so that we educate residents along the way, is to give them a choice: none, all, or some. And my proposal would be only the CCFC, only the civic court. So would you be willing as a resident to turn over the civic quarter to a new municipality? Not the North Village Pool, not East Village, not Heritage Hall, not this building, etc. So just give that as a straw poll to residents, take that input and revisit in the October meeting if we need to revisit. Just an idea.
I mean, the problem with that from a timing perspective, that doesn't answer the question for us. We're still.
We can answer it tonight, and it gets updated as needed.
So I'm going to go with I'm going to pull back my amended motion, and I'm going to go back with my first motion to reject turning over CROA's privately held common areas to a potential Celebration municipality. Asterisk, but you already have a Grand Manor survey out there. There's going to be survey confusion, and they're not here for 3 years. And I need to make a decision. That's the motion.
Okay, Sheila, you want to go in a second?
Stay with you.
Okay,
You what?
assuming there's
You were the second.
Yeah, she's going. Charles has gone back to his original motion
Right.
that we reject. I mean, municipality see us okay with going back to that. I'm assuming there's no more discussion.
That's fair.
All in favor of rejecting Celebration becoming a municipality, say aye.
Rejecting turning over CROA comment.
Listen to Charles.
Privately held.
Motion to reject turning over CROA's privately held common areas to Celebration municipality.
So a yes vote means reject.
Correct.
It means none turned over.
So,
So all in favor of Charles's motion?
aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I oppose for the reasons stated about wanting to get the pulse of the community.
Okay, so that's 5-2. Motion carries. Okay. So now we're going to number 6. That was originally on the consent agenda.
A motion to move forward.
Second.
Second.
So I made this, I know it was Charles, it was on Charles's mind too, but I wanted this moved because when we voted on this last month, I was under the impression that the task put before the technology committee was to compare ONR's system of reporting repairs and the like to GoGov's system for functionality, ease of use, whatever, compare the two, and then make a recommendation based on what they found after they had reviewed and tested both systems.
I specifically said at the last meeting that that was not the case, that the technology committee learned of ONR being a possibility at the last minute. So I'm sorry you misunderstood that, but we did vote on it. That was stated,
Well, but
Just a quick clarification, that was not, you mentioned me, I didn't.
no, 7. You wanted 7 moved.
Oh, and but GoGov, yeah, I had no,
No, what I'm saying is I believe that when we first started discussing this, that the original task months ago was for the technology committee to evaluate both. And I know.
No, it was not. It was never mentioned. ONR was not mentioned. First of all, there wasn't a tech committee until March.
Right.
Okay,
This is already September, so.
I
it's 7 months
understand.
ago.
I understand that. I do.
Okay.
But
I was gonna say, my motion still stands, but I did have the same understanding that we were comparing GoGov to Owner, and it was one or the other, and that was my original understanding.
That's right.
That's what your understanding was.
That's what my understanding was, Jared. So that's what his understanding was,
In my understanding.
and yours and yours and yours.
so we're gonna
But now
reverse our decision? Is
Well,
that what we're gonna do?
because I now have found out, and I didn't go searching for this. I was sitting somewhere minding my own business. It came to my attention that only 2 people actually opened the credentials for ONR to see how that worked. I was under the impression
People ought to,
only 2 people got their credentials.
that's because they didn't find out about it.
This is June. This is September.
When did, which meeting, I don't remember, is it the second or third meeting? Did it come up that ONR, because it was the same meeting that they voted to recommend GoGov. So you can't compare something that comes up as an option on the same meeting that you're gonna vote to recommend GoGov as opposed to cell service, which is always what it was compared to.
I have an email from June where the technology committee was sent credentials to test ONR. And then again in July.
I'm gonna let Tom speak to this because he went.
That's ONR. We did, yeah. But
No, you said you did not.
ONR has a lot of facets to it.
Okay.
Only one is a problem reporting piece.
Right, that's what I
That's the
thought
only
you're
piece that
comparing.
we did not test.
Well, that's the part that
Okay.
we all were under the impression you were testing.
Yeah. Okay, you may have been under the impression, we did. We had a discussion at the meeting, we decided that there should be one app for all residents. And so we didn't test that piece, the problem report. I don't even think we would exist at that point. That is the problem reporting part. The rest of ONR was they signed us up. Yes, we checked it out, but not the ability to report problems.
You didn't check
Came up
that
the last
part.
minute.
No, we didn't test that part because we had an alternative available.
But why wasn't that part tested? Because isn't that what we need to know? How to report?
At the end, it was my.
No, the ONR was originally selected and paid for and passed by the board to take care of scheduling, right?
It was, we originally looked at it as a replacement for RecPro because
Yeah.
RecPro is becoming more and more outdated. We're having more and more issues with it and it's not functional. You can't do, it's not a seamless amenity reservation system. When we originally did the demo for ONR, we also saw other many benefits of it, like the social media aspect piece that could replace the forums. They briefly touched on the facilities maintenance request, but it originally was brought in for a RecPro replacement and to add an additional communications piece for residents. It also houses governing docs and ARC applications, so we could use it in tandem with the website. So just more ways to get information out to residents.
So when we were presented with this at our last meeting, we were, I guess, not guided correctly. I'm not.
No, so when we, I'll have to rewatch the video to make sure I'm not crazy, but
I don't think you're crazy, but you were much more intimately connected to this game.
Yes, of course.
Technology committee.
Yeah, I was at that meeting.
Right.
Where they made the vote, and I was at the meeting where Jose said, well, there is a request thing in here. And they worked through that and they said, well, if we want to use that, let's just point it to that, because if we went with ONR, then it would be split again, right? It would be split like it is now. And that the technology committee, that was one of their overarching goals was, and what they agreed on was to have one app.
But how could they decide that if they didn't see what owner had to offer?
Well, no, owner, if you choose owner, right? If we choose owner instead of GoGov, we have two systems for submitting. And we talked through that extensively last meeting about how
CROA doesn't have two systems though.
Celebration. No, the residents do. I do. You do. Everyone in the audience does.
Yeah, two things. One thing, last time we had a clear management recommendation to go with ONR for all of these things. This included, correct?
It was our
That
original
changed in the middle.
recommendation.
That was the original management recommendation.
It was the original
right?
recommendation, and then
but-
it changed throughout the meeting through
Right.
further discussion to point the ONR facilities piece to the GoGov app. So all facilities maintenance requests will go to GoGov, and ONR would, if you approve it this time, still be used for the messaging piece and the RecPro replacement.
But what we end up with ONR is one system for the HOA, all HOA purposes. One system for all HOA purposes. And so residents figure out that if you have a power problem, you call the power company. If you have something with sewage, it's with ECDD.
That was the problem. We didn't want the residents to have to face and the homeowners to have to face, is to choose that. Who does the pond? Who does this sidewalk? Who does that sidewalk?
Yeah, the worst,
It still gets referred.
well, but the worst thing we do is create an if-then table. So if this is a pond, go to GoGov. If this is a park, go to ONR. Point, I think, as we were trying to make, some of us, was that one single app, one place to go, everything for one celebration. So a little bit, and again, I don't know where CDD is in the timeline too. If we're now talking about this, I see Greg walking up here. So
No, that's okay. We need to call for a
They
vote.
voted on it 3 4 months ago.
Yeah, the
We've already, I mean, we've actually put it on a pause as far as implementing it. We do have it live and we are getting some tickets, but under the understanding from last meeting, I had asked Angel to put it on a pause. Mostly to make sure Lauren's staff was ready to go. With our understanding was we still need to negotiate the contract piece with you guys. So yeah, we have it, it's developed. I think the tech committee had all their inputs, but.
And Jose's developed he's almost done with a how-to video for how to use GoGo for the residents.
Yep. And to the question before, just on O&R and the timing, and again, for whatever that's worth in your deliberations, you know, we had the joint workshop in April. We had, I think, initially broached this back in January. None of us had heard of O&R until maybe 2 weeks before the last meeting. I didn't even know it existed. It had never come up as a commentary. So that was part of the question from our board when it did start popping up was, why? How come this didn't come up in January or February when the questions were coming up? We would love to have evaluated that alongside GoGov, and if it made sense, to Jim and Charles's point, absolutely, the consensus unanimously from our board is we would like to continue with one app for the community as cell service has served for 8 years, that you go in and it's transparent to the residents. They don't have to figure out any, I'm even telling my staff, hey, if you get things that are for the county with sewers and all that, do not reject that ticket. Go call the county. That's our job as governance, is to help ferret some of that stuff out. So that is absolutely the will or desire of our board is to stay on one app. But that's.
Do you care one way or another if we use GoGov or O&R?
If you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have said either one would have been fine. Since we had made the commitment on GoGov, we're
Are we paying extra for that? The maintenance thing, where you can report repairs and stuff. Are you paying extra? Or is that just part of the package?
That's the entire licensing fees. Yeah.
Fee of GoGo.
That's what it was.
So
That's what that was built for, as opposed to it being one of the many features. If you guys want to reconsider O&R, I can support pushing it back to the technology committee to review it, because they have not reviewed it, and I do not want to say it's better just because it'll be one app for CROA homeowners.
So
even though that same homeowner is going to have to get another app if it's a pond or whatever.
So I think GoGov is a very specialized tool for maintenance and facilities requests. It has a lot of reporting around it that's beneficial for the CDD, not necessarily beneficial for us, but it's a good tool, and it's something that we can use easily. It's very similar to cell service on the back end, so it's not a huge lift for us to do both apps. You know, from a resident perspective, it might be nice for them to have one app where they're doing everything in, but it's not going to give you I don't think O&R is going to give you the specialization that GoGov does for maintenance and facilities requests. From an HOA perspective, it's not bad for us, but from a CDD perspective, it makes their life a little more chaotic if they don't have something with the specifics that GoGov provides.
And from a dollars and cents perspective, let's also remind that we have credits for how many years? 3?
Almost 5.
Almost 5 years. So this is not hitting the CROA budget whatsoever for through credits, basically.
So if it works for, you could almost say it's a 5-year test run of, not that I want to say in 5 years I want to switch an application, because that's a pain, but.
So management recommended it, technology committee recommended it.
But that was my point. The committee didn't recommend it.
Technology did commit.
Well, they recommended going with owner, but they didn't look at
They recommended
GoGov.
Yeah.
But they didn't look at owner. And I was under the impression that that was all part of what was going on.
It's a critical incident. That's kind of what.
So I voted yes under a misconception. Whatever that's worth.
So the question now is whether to move forward.
I motioned to approve it. Someone seconded.
Jim seconded.
Jim seconded it. All in favor?
And so if we decide to not move forward, then it could go back to the technology committee to do a review.
Correct.
And then for public record, part of our discussion with CDD maybe 3 or 4 months ago was to caution them to not go forward with GoGov and not make a commitment until CROA had a chance to evaluate options.
And for the record, we did stand by for about 2 or 3 months waiting on those recommendations and didn't get it.
Well, and the technology committee made one.
Well, yeah, correct. Your technology committee did
But
make the
apparently, many people on this board thought that they were assessing ONR capabilities alongside GoGo. So
I thought that was the point.
right, it was never the point. No, and
So call the question.
oh, okay. Roll call, please.
All in so all in favor of moving forward? Jim?
Roll call, please.
Oh, you went, okay. Gentlemen?
Yes.
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 No. No.
It's staying the last time. I'm staying from it this time.
I'm just saying no.
So it's a 3-3, which means it does not get approved.
Yeah, we got that.
So
just to be clear, we reversed our decision from last one.
because I was under the majority of us were under the impression that they, and even Jared said that he was under the impression they were testing both. And when you can't say that the committee is recommending something when you think that they're looking at two different things, and somebody comes to you and says the committee is recommending this one, and you find out that only two of the people on the committee.
Cindy, I totally understand where you're coming from.
So I
totally
think
understand where you're
I
coming
think it's
from.
time to end the conversation.
I just wanted to make the point that we reversed our decision from the last meeting.
So the vote's been taken, unless there's another motion on it. Let's move on.
Item number 7, I'll motion to approve.
Well, wait a minute. Can we ask the technology committee to evaluate ONR just for peace of mind?
No. I mean, doesn't need to be.
I'll be glad to pass that on to them.
Would you please?
Yes.
And then, have them look at it, pick the tires, and, like I said, I don't have skin in this game one way or another. I just want to make sure that we all know what's happened to get us.
I'm disappointed that everyone wasn't following us closely, but I totally understand it.
Okay.
There's definitely a majority of people who, even regardless of the yes or no's, who was under a false impression. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
take that on to them and they will do a comparison.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, no second.
Jared made a motion.
I'll second.
Jared made a motion to approve forward with the utilization of owner by application Inc. as a replacement for PracPro. Jared and Celia seconded.
Always note that this is a 3-year
Well,
amount that you
yeah.
get a discount for.
Yeah, so hopefully there's discussion on this since it was pulled off the consent agenda.
That was Charles. You got questions, Charles?
So I guess this ties in. Did the technology committee look at this as a replacement so what has the technology committee done with ONR? I guess this is where I'm confused by all of this. Like, where is this coming from? This is a management company.
We made a decision last year
Right.
when there wasn't a functioning technology committee during that time to go with management recommendation that it was a better replacement and more efficient for them than RecPro, and it was less expensive. So sort of
So technology committee has looked at this or has not.
no, there was not a technology committee to look at it at the time that we decided this.
This is a management.
I think it's a management thing.
Yeah.
This is purely for RecPro. The recommendation right here is for a RecPro replacement and also using its communication piece that we're already using in the service areas. And we're rolling out the recreation arm of it.
Yeah, so once the technology committee was formed, they did see the value in ONR for what it was originally chosen to do.
I mean, if we reversed on GoGov, talking about now spending an ONR, like I made that decision to me, take both of these back, do a side by side with technology.
Well, but
No, see, I need this one because of RecPro.
Yeah.
RecPro's
But
going away.
but ONR is going to, I guess.
We currently have two things.
We may or may
have
not-
Service and we have RecPro.
yeah, the question with ONR is how much of it will we implement? And so, the tech committee and, Jose was there, kind of came to an agreement that they would just forward it on. So if someone was in there, and it's easy for them to click on something there, then it would move them over. So, but again, that's not what people thought was happening. So what will happen now is the technology committee will evaluate specifically submitting of problems and requests in O&R, how it works on the front end, how it works on the back end, and see which one is better. Technically speaking, O&R is also free, right? Because we were already paying for the whole thing.
Right.
Did the recreation committee, because we haven't talked about O&R as long as I've been liaison.
We talked about it last year with them.
It was last year. Okay.
It was
Did
tough.
they had a recommendation? Did the recreation committee have any? No, nothing.
Not really.
They-
They don't really get involved in all of that. We just gave them an update that we were looking for a retro replacement, because this is more of a management. This is more of a management functionality piece, replacing Rec Pro. It's not changing programming or changing usage of the amenities, which is what the recreation committee is.
I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the agenda, is it's unfortunate that these things can't come up before the meeting for us to potentially discuss, or at least have some emails back and forth on. But that's what it is. People that would be conspiracy theorists could come up with some pretty good conspiracies around this.
I will say, if we can have
You
a,
have to go.
Why did you say that? Like,
if we could have a written report of their analysis of the two programs, because a lot of this conversation on both of these has all just been in conversation. We don't have anything in writing about either of them that lets us make any educated decision. So if the technology committee can write something,
yeah,
that can go in the board packet, and then we can ask questions.
As opposed to what was in the last one initially, which was management's assessment, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Which I criticized harshly as well.
Okay.
So we're still on
7. Jared, are you still keeping?
Yeah, the motion is to accept.
So you second,
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Harold is opposed. Okay. C. Am I? 4. I know.
Oh, 3.
But I'm here. Yeah. All right. Motion to approve one-year service agreement with CQ Aquatic Solutions LLC as our new pool vendor in the amount of $12,250 a month, which is $147,000 annually.
I'll motion for discussion.
I'll second. Jared and Celia. Discuss.
Lauren, so yes, I think this is the one we should go with. I did call and check some of their references, and they're very loved by their big client, so that's great. But there is, some of the bids have an emergency call quantified. This one didn't that I saw. Is there? So for some of the bids said 4 emergency calls. We have a lot of emergency calls based on the alerts that I get. So does this bid have any emergency calls, or what is the cost for that?
Yeah, that would be separate call.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to get back with Chris on that.
I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that's the
if he
question.
didn't factor that in.
That's important. Are you talking about emergency calls like half
After hours.
pool is half full or half empty pools?
Or, well, I don't know what qualifies as
Or
emergency.
disinfecting the pool is all.
Disinfecting the pool
Yeah.
happens like a lot.
That's what
It does. So if
So-
that's $5,000 a time, but another bid has 4 of them included every month, that's gonna affect how I vote on this. So I guess I'll need my motion to table this for clarification.
But the rationale includes 7 days of service, so an emergency could be handled within 1 day, right? So I thought that the goal was to get a better company, so hopefully with a better company, we'll have fewer emergencies.
Well,
You know,
you can't
throw
help,
diapers.
you can't help.
Does that, I guess that's a good point though, is does Do we need emergency call if they're 7 days a week? Isn't that just part of what they're doing? Or is like disinfecting a pool above and beyond their scope?
It's how it's scope.
That would be an extra. That would
Okay, so
definitely
yeah.
be an extra. Yeah, if they were here, say for example, in the morning.
Yeah.
And something like that was to happen in the evening, they would have to be back out.
Or you close it till the next day.
So according to what he's telling me right now, they would be on call pretty much for us.
But we don't know what that cost per time is.
So we may.
So, I mean, as part of the scope, it was, the scope of work as written, what did include addressing any emergency issues that were related to, fecal matter in the pool or things like that. So if they're not calling out a specific price, then let Brian verify, but it might be included in that all-in number.
Did you, did you call, because I'm noticing the references are pretty recent, like a year and a half, but when you go through like some of the other ones, there were something like 2017. So it looks like they all pretty new relationships. Have we called any of the references? Do we know?
I did.
Yeah,
I called 2 of the references. He's a newer company because he came from somewhere else. But
He's been around though, because it looks like.
him as a person has been around.
Yeah.
And his 2 biggest contracts, I called both the Waldorf Astoria and Four Seasons, and they have very, very, very positive comments. And one of those is over a year old.
So the other piece of the reason why Brian and I are recommending them is they are already very knowledgeable about our pool systems and their schematics. What we're running into right now, your previous vendor and your current temporary vendor, they're not familiar with your pool systems, which is why you saw the big water level drops at Lakeside and Spring Park and Spring Lake, and then at Spring Park Kiddie Pool.
Right.
So, which they are crediting us back the water bill associated with those water drops. So that's out there. But our pool systems are true commercial pool systems, and we need somebody that's used to handling those and not just a mom and pop company or a company that's used to a standard lower level HOA pool.
So that's the right. I mean, again,
Yes.
that's a bit of a red flag for me. And again, I think it's great that you called, but you guys need to call these references.
I did call.
You did call. Okay.
Brian, you have an answer?
Anything on call until 5 p.m. would be covered under the general scope. Anything after hours, after 5 p.m. would be $150. Yep.
So then if we can get that included in the contract before we sign anything, I motion to approve.
I second.
I second it.
So you have a second.
Clarification
Well,
question?
He
Yes.
made a motion for discussion that you seconded.
Yeah, but that's just not.
Oh, I'm sorry. So how are we doing this?
I'll let you have the second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Clarification question. Looking at the 2024 budget, what dollar figure is included now? Because the current budgeted amount is 63,800 and the proposed is almost double that.
In B12 of your budget, it's 171,000 that was included in as the pool contract,
Okay.
because that was the highest number we
Okay.
got back.
Okay, as long as it's already included.
This number is coming in less than, so it does adjust down
Right.
your dues
But
increase.
it's not the current amount. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next one, motion to approve the landscaping improvements at Tenny Royal Park for exquisite lawn care, $50,751.50 for all reserves.
I'll make a motion.
Delia, have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Me.
People?
Jared.
Oh, okay. I can't see your mouth with your beard.
I get this, and I do think that we need to do this, but there's mention that there was a landscape architect involved. Was that something that CROA was a part of, or how did that?
They donated their time.
Okay.
The residents around there donated their time and engaged a landscape architect that's qualified. They worked with Brian from Exquisite to come up with these plans and propose them to Art. So it was community effort surrounding Pengrove Park.
Did you get 3 bids on this?
It's Brian's the one that maintains the park.
We're supposed to get 3 bids on these though, correct?
I mean-
Anything over 10,000?
Not on the landscaping revamps that they maintain the parks.
If you're asking about the statutory requirement, it's 10% of your total budget.
Contract, management contract. I thought it was a management contract, but anything over $10,000.
We do with things that aren't things like landscaping, because a landscaper will not warranty their work if they're not the one maintaining it.
So this was just, you can just go to bid, just get one. Okay.
Any other questions, discussion?
Just 2 comments, just for the board packet. Hearing the information from Rick in the owner's comments was very helpful. I know we didn't get through it all, but to me, it was very helpful. And that sort of thing would be helpful to have in the rationale, assuming that was all true. I don't have any reason to disagree. And I think also some pictures, not unlike what we have with appeals and ARC and covenants, that would also be helpful to make the case this is what is needed. So I'm just thinking moving forward, it's not a comment about tonight and any rejection, but it's about moving forward. I think that helps, and it helps inform the community what goes into our consideration.
So one more question on this. All this had some issues with the soil, right? Nematode. That's going to address all of that, correct? No?
Brian, if you could speak on the matter,
please. That's the, yes. Are we getting to the
Nematode magic?
Nematode. Is this addressing the nematodes?
No. Yes and no. So we're not going to be able to get rid of the nematodes.
Why?
Because you can't. It's that simple.
Like termites, you can't get rid of them either.
And then the nematode species that we have there, 100% cannot. This is confirmed by Dr. CROA at the University of Florida, who performed the nematode test. We can control the nematodes, but we cannot get rid of them. We can't remove the soil. We can't treat them with any chemical. There is nothing we can do. I think he told me there's one chemical, but the EPA will not allow us to apply it. So that probably gives you an idea of how dangerous it is. We chose St. Augustine for grass to go in here because the root system of St. Augustine is much larger than zoysia. The surrounding homes, yours included, has St. Augustine. Every home around this park has St. Augustine grass, and it's nice and green, right? It has a thicker root system than zoysia or Bermuda, Bahia, any of the others, providing more food for the nematodes to eat. So if we can give them enough food and more, we can keep that grass alive. But if we just give them enough to survive on, they're going to create dead spots all in that grass, which is what they do right now and have been for, like you said, decades. The other thing to keep in mind here, I was talking with Brian earlier about this. Every time someone walks from their front door to the mailbox, they're carrying the nematodes with them. Every time we cut the grass, we're carrying the nematodes with us. Every time any individual landscape company goes and they walk from their trailer to grab an edger, a weed eater, drive the mower across this park, they're carrying the nematodes with them. We're going to start looking into some of the additional parks in this area. Goldmaster in specific. Goldmaster has a ring of St. Augustine around and zoysia on the inside. St. Augustine's great. Zoysia looks bad. There's a good chance that because of the proximity to this park, that, and this is no one's fault. I mean, you've got Davies, you've got Gerard, Yellowstone, us, so many companies traipsing through this park, that they've probably carried those nematodes to the surrounding parks. Green Square is one that's also in proximity that really struggles. So we're going to perform nematode tests on all those surrounding parks to see if we have the same thing. And they're all zoysia parks. Any other questions?
Okay. So Celia made a motion, Bill seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. It is 10 to 8, so we need to talk real fast if we're going to be done by 8 o'clock. Number 5, motion to not rent Grills Island Village residents and reserved use town hall events as recommended by the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Motion.
Derek, is that you?
Second.
David? Any discussion?
Who made the motion?
Jared, then David.
I think just carrying forward with what I think we heard from Jim earlier, just carrying forward with looking at some other options, but for now, an immediate policy is not rent grills, only town hall events, but to explore,
We'll look at options.
just to look at other options.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
And the write-up from the rec committee was quite good rationale. Something we talked about actually 6 months ago.
Next, number 6, motion to approve opening the Island Village Gym with 24/7 access pursuant to the agreement with streetlights.
I'll motion to table this.
That was Jared. Motion's table. Second.
I'll second that. Again, we also heard comments about that and making sure it's spot on ready with all cameras working and signage and policies and so forth.
Do we have any issues with streetlights and deadlines?
No, you don't have any specific deadline that you were provided to be operating it 24/7, but I think from our conversations with TCC, they said a reasonable time frame.
I think we're becoming unreasonable.
If we carry this out into next year, we will probably be.
We were unreasonable last year.
Tabling it for next
Yes,
month.
we're being reasonable.
You should have signage up and the camera.
We're defining this reasonable.
By next month, so then you
Okay.
should be.
So we're tabling this. We have a motion from Jared and second by David to table number 6 until next month.
I'm sorry, 6. Nothing.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Unanimous. Number 8, motion to approve award. Oh, yeah, sorry. Motion to approve moving forward with lease agreement with Lexington Celebration Commercial LLC. Have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second.
discussion.
In an effort of time, this is how many questions I have on the contract. So I know we can't discuss these tonight, but
So I just need authority to start negotiating with them and talking to them about a contract. That's just their template lease that they use. They're open to discussion. I need authority to move forward and engage Tom and for them to spend money on their attorney. And I don't want to do that, not in good faith.
Okay, I guess my challenge with this is, like, we know this is a problem. We know E51, ultimately we have to do something with it. I understand there's space around the community, but I thought more of like the middle ground stopgap solution is using the other parts of the community, like, and I understand we have partner programs and everything. I feel like maybe we bypass that a little bit. We're going right to like the Lexington and looking to spend without, this just gives me a lot of heartburn right now. I feel like we didn't properly flesh that out. I'm not done.
I'm sorry.
So we didn't properly look at everything else that we have, putting folks remote. That's just where I am right now. I have a lot of concerns about this right now. And I think there may be some discussion with the master plan advisory group, in some way, shape, or form, potentially. So I don't know. That's where my head is.
So I will say this space contemplates some of your administrative staff offsite, just because there's no private offices. It's really more housing the people that have to physically be here on site. And the struggle with I have no issue with spreading the staff out amongst the amenities like we did in December/January of this year. That just drastically impacts your partner programs. And if we're closing 851 because of, health reasons or functionality reasons, then there's a number of programs here that I need to distribute out into Heritage, Jones Room, and CCFC, which is where you would house your staff because those are the largest locations. Some of them I can house out in Island Village. Otherwise, I'm just removing all of that and furniture for
Can you speak to the residents in terms of, the negotiations and how they've been and, just kind of some background on that?
With Lexon or with
Yeah,
other?
Lexon.
So Lexon normally rents a space for $28 an hour plus $11.50 CAM per square foot. But because they value their relationship with CROA and are working to, improve relations with Town Hall and the community, they're willing to do $16 per square foot and $11.50 CAM per square foot for a 2-year lease agreement with no rent increases for the 2-year term. So essentially, you're getting a $12 off per square foot of the normal rate. And normally they require a 3-month down payment. They're willing to accept a 2-month down payment for this. Electric and internet are the only 2 things that are not provided. But Smart City is already installed there. So it's an easy cutover for us. They seem to be genuinely trying to partner with us.
Oh, the figure is for 671 Town Center, Suite 210, correct? 1,970 square feet. That was the smaller. So I'm not understanding. So that figure doesn't add up to what one of the residents online mentioned, about $160,000.
Well, that's not, we're talking about $54,000.
Right. So I'm saying the resident publicly stated that it was going to cost $160,000 for rent, but it's not.
Yeah.
Correct?
They were wrong.
And we discussed this in July. We discussed it in August about moving the staff out of this building. It has to be done. It's not like Lauren has done her due diligence on investigating every single piece of property to rent, and this is the least expensive. And we're an HOA. I don't think everybody should be working virtually from home. They need to be here working in the community. Can't have Brian working from home or Nikki or the park monitors. You need staff here in town. And we need to work with our partner programs if the building gets shut down. We can't lose it. I think it's like what's the income from our partner program? I think like $170,000 is our
The
revenue.
cost for partner programs is just what we pay to maintain the amenities.
But do we know what that is?
The run rate for each amenity.
Yeah.
We've run reports for them. I can forward them.
I mean, yeah, I'm not asking for that right here, but yeah. I understand we make $170,000, but I don't know that we don't spend $220,000 to do that is, I guess, my fault.
Any more questions?
David's got his hand up.
Oh, David, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Billy has said this 2 or 3 months ago. We talked about the urgency to get the staff out. I think this is an appropriate move. The other parallel question, because the staff are here for the full workday, does that mean the building is unhealthy or unsafe? We don't know that yet. We're getting that tested. So when we have partner programs, we have people coming in for meetings for 1, 2, 3 hours. That's different than 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. So I think this is appropriate. We've done the time, you've done the research. Let's get on with it and take care of our staff.
So are you saying, that we would close half of 851? Because I thought we talked about this last month as well. Or all of it.
Yeah, what is this?
How about moving the offices?
Well, for sure, moving the offices and staff.
And we don't know
And
about
then somebody brought up, well, if it's unhealthy for staff, why isn't it unhealthy for the partner programs? But then like David just said, if they're only here for an hour or two once a week.
Well,
It doesn't have to say
how are we going to confirm that? I respect David's opinion. He could be totally accurate, but I don't think.
The air quality control test is finally scheduled for Monday.
Okay. And that'll be all over and they'll get different readings and okay.
It's about the building.
And I think we ran out of time is what's the actual exit strategy? If we vote on this, then what? Like, how do we get people so this just feels like we're running to sign a lease, but how are we getting out of this? What's the strategy to communicate this? What's the strategy to sunset the building? Get everyone moved over? This just screams. Let's just sign this.
How long did it take?
It's just very half baked.
We did a did a 1 week, we moved actually within 2 days, but the communications leading up to it was about a week leading up to it, but we had very short notice.
You don't have to move your desks
From what
because
we've
there's-
talked about at our management meetings, we have a plan of action that the team can execute and move forward with the move. And at this point, I just need authority to negotiate in good faith with Lexington on a lease. It's not, you're not saying you're agreeing to the lease or signing the lease, but I did not want to have them incur legal costs and us incur legal costs if there's not any interest in moving forward with this one iota.
Can we reword the motion then? It is vague in that respect. How about just adding the word lease agreement negotiations? That work?
Yeah, that's a good amendment.
So the motion is now to approve moving forward with lease agreement negotiations with Lexington Celebration Commercial LLC. So that was Celia and Bill.
Yep.
All in favor?
Wait, did they amend? Yes. I didn't hear that. Okay, sorry, go ahead. We'll vote again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Who's that?
I'm
Sure.
opposed.
Okay. Motion to approve Award Engineering Inc. as owner representative for Spring Park Pool Project, amount of $84,500.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jared and Jim. Any discussion?
Can you just give us some background about what this addresses and how long those problems have been existing, et cetera?
So about the end of last year, we reached out to a bunch of different companies to give us bids to do this initial investigative work. This is the company that was chosen. They came out, they did a report. It's been provided to the board. There's some erosion issues under the Spring Park pool deck from many reasons, rainfall, irrigation lines, what have you. At this point, to make sure there's no further damage to the Spring Park pool deck, we just need to get it corrected.
And this is going to necessitate closing the pool for a period of time.
Yes.
Any other questions? This motion is made by Jared, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Oh, I'm glad it's finally getting done. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion to approve one additional member to the Recreation Committee. And who might that be?
So I would like to make the motion to appoint Marco Vecchia to the Recreation Committee.
How many will that make on the recreation?
6. If we lost one, and this would be 6 if it goes through
We did have an additional application as well. Do we want
today.
do we want to look at that so that we can bring it to 7?
We can do that next one too, to give everybody a chance to look at it, if they haven't already.
And what?
All right, yeah, so I will amend my motion to add 2 members to the Recreation Committee, Marco Vecchia and Annie Wood, right? That was,
Yes.
Annie Wood.
I'll second.
Can they be separate motions? Sorry.
Can they be separate motions?
Yeah, separate action items.
I think we already adopted the agenda. Can we do separate?
Well, if that's the case, then we're just appointing one additional member to the recreation.
Yeah, we can change the motion. What do you want to vote on?
Let's vote separately.
Separately on
Yeah.
them.
That's all.
So,
So we're voting
well,
twice on one additional member.
I'll update my motion. So back to my first motion, to appoint Marco Vecchia to the Recreation Committee.
Celia, did you second that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion?
Marco was at the July meeting when we didn't have quorum. Valued member of the Community Recreation Program. I think he'd be a great asset. And I believe he was on it in the past. So he is my recommendation.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Opposed.
Now after the second. Oh, sure.
Yeah, so now if you want to,
Okay, so now can I get, so right now I'd like to make a motion to appoint Annie Wood to the Recreation Committee.
second,
All in favor?
I,
Anybody opposed?
Who seconded?
Jim. Charles and Jim. No one was in favor, nobody's opposed. Okay. Next, adopt the master plan resolution.
Motion to approve the master plan resolution.
I'll second it.
Did I get, I don't remember seeing it.
It was emailed out to you.
Do we need to-
I think you commented on it.
Oh, okay. I was, for some reason, I was expecting revision on that. I'm sorry.
Do we need it in the packet? Lawyer? I'm sorry. It's not in the packet. Lawyer.
It was
It is
not.
not.
You're billing us.
It was not completed in time to get into the packet for the 48-hour notice.
Okay, so, yeah, usually you're approving a specific document, so, I don't know who has the last draft of it. Everybody have a last draft?
We all have it on the board.
Yeah.
So
what you, well,
Well,
Is there a version number or some sort of specific?
There's a version.
yeah,
I was expecting some
it's
discussion.
the board.
yeah, just to make it in before 48 hours.
Can we just, are you concerned that of the visibility?
Procedurally.
Yes,
are we-
I agree with Charles.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, so
Can we vote on it and release it?
And post it?
For,
if we vote on this and it's not in the packet, nobody sees what we're voting on. We're just saying you're approving a
Yeah.
resolution and this is.
which we're going to share, but did not share in
Yes.
advance.
Okay, so the answer to that question is yes, you can approve it and you can release it. It'll be subject to inspection and copy by anybody anyway, as long as you're all referring to a particular version number or something. If we all understand on the same page as to what we're approving. If there's any question about it, then we should address it now in a minute. But if not, then yes, if it's like version 4, whatever you want to call it, or a certain date or time, that's fine, as long as we're all agreed on what it is.
So it's V4, it's titled CROA Master Plan Advisory Group Resolution Draft V4. And it's from an email sent by Jared on Monday at 8:59 PM.
And I'll amend my motion to read just as you said.
Second for that.
So once, so if we vote in the affirmative, and if, so we can't make changes then, or we could make changes.
Now
I was-
you're voting, right now
you're
you're being asked to vote to approve that version sent
Oh,
in
that
that email.
version specifically.
Yes, in that email.
I mean, we can always, if you think of changes between now and then, we can look at those at the next meeting.
That's true.
But I'd like to, I think everyone wants to kind of push forward with this.
I just anticipated some discussion, so, but I'm okay
You
with
can
it.
have discussion. No,
Hmm?
you can have discussion.
about the
Yeah,
topic.
you can have discussion. I'm just-
Well, but I don't have it in front of me. So, because I was expecting to see another draft for some reason.
Did you ask for revisions?
I made some comments,
Okay,
and I don't think, I remember seeing any
yeah, I don't,
comments beyond mine.
No, there were, that's true. You did have, we can discuss that as a topic right now if we want. It was about, committee members.
Right.
So, and just so everyone, because nobody can see this right now, so we've had some back and forth, building the resolution, trying to figure out what the scope is going to be, the composition of who's going to be on it, the timeline. So we started that out. Jared was kind enough to finish it, circulate it, and that's what we're voting on right now.
And to the resolution, because I don't have a computer in front of me. Jared,
Yes.
because you wrote it, you have the committee members in there, correct?
Yes,
part-
currently, so let's just talk about this
Yeah.
section, which is I think the only section that was
Right.
up for discussion. The composition of the group consists of 5 to 7 CROA members in good standing, which is residents. 1 representative from the Parks and Rec Committee, non-voting. 1 representative from Finance Committee, non-voting. 1 representative from Lifestyles and Special Events, non-voting. 1 representative from Technology, non-voting. 2 board liaisons, non-voting, and 2 staff liaisons, non-voting. That's what was put out.
My comment, I remember if I made 1 or 2, was that that's 15 people. So it almost seems a little unwieldy. So I don't know if, I mean, I think we need the involvement of all those committee people. But
think that's why you did the voting and non-voting. So it's,
It's really just 5 to 7.
it is 5 to 7 that will actually have the vote. I think the other one is to make sure we're connecting all the dots with all of the committees and management.
But there's
So
also 15 voices at a meeting. Oh, just saying. I mean, it's, I mean, it's another, I don't have any.
We'll make sure we have a really mean chair.
No, that's gonna be Lauren. No, it's Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not me.
You're gonna keep them quiet.
Yeah, I'll bring
No,
Bring it down.
I understand what you're saying. Totally get it. I think it's levels of feedback in my mind, right? And so, we had 15 of us. I can see where that would be challenging. But, we're talking about us, right? And then requiring people basically to come and give their input every meeting.
The only,
I was gonna say, and we should bring this up as a point during the orientation of like, hey, this is a lot of people. This is, with some instruction as to what that would look like.
the only other comment we need to think about, and I guess we can revisit this, is CDD as we start working potentially with them. Is that then going to potentially change some of this? We don't know.
I think we had that discussion, Jared, didn't we?
We talked about it at the joint.
Yeah.
And Greg is still here, we want to do that, but I think basically, the idea was, it will exist and they will report to us and CROA will work with CCD.
So I guess would that be though, you as liaison would, just to report in from a CDD perspective?
Did you just elect me as the liaison?
I mean, you're CDD liaison.
Oh, the CCD, okay, yes,
No.
yeah.
So would you then report into this from or you know what I mean? Just so we have
Yeah.
connectivity with CDD
Yeah.
without having an explicit member of the committee, just so we have.
And also they have my counterpart on CCDD, Jack Malone.
Right, okay. Cool. So maybe it can be silent, but okay.
Cindy, does that help?
Well, yeah, I mean, and like I said, if any of us would go and, just really start digging into it and we can always tweak it.
Yes.
As things went. So go ahead. So
Tweak what?
this version of the master plan
But when
resolution.
we tweak things on our email, it always turns into,
Tweak that?
Well, it would.
I just
It
wanted.
would have to be
No.
public.
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah, we can do it.
Like,
Yeah, no,
If between now and our next meeting.
Yes.
we'll discuss the changes at the next meeting.
There we go. Okay, but for now, we're going with this.
Okay, would you like this published on the website so residents can see it?
I was actually gonna ask, can we
The next
make
meeting.
an MPEG page and this is the first?
I already have one drafted for you.
Great, then this would be the first document to go there.
And just so everybody knows, are we allowed to say how many applicants we have?
Yeah, we should.
From our last meeting, we went from 11 applicants. And when we opened it up to the entire community without the specific criteria that was originally put in place, we have like 42 applicants now. So, thank you to everybody that applied.
So as part of that, can you sunset the celebration hall and the lot D, just so that gets the priority on the capital expenditure?
You want me to sunset those pages?
Just so this gets the most, I mean, because that's kind of the way.
That's fine. I just didn't want to
Well, it's
start
up to the
taking
board. I
stuff
don't know.
down.
I don't think we should remove them while the MPEG is, that's just data.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
more data for them.
Okay.
True.
I don't recall anybody making a motion on this.
Charles did.
Charles, sure. And I amended mine too, with the version and email.
Any other discussion?
Does Jared
Yeah, I'm-
accept the amendment?
Yes.
As I did when this was brought up 4 months ago, I'm going to vote against this because I think it was ill-conceived. That'll confuse some people because I voted in favor of moving forward last month, which was moving forward with the exploration, not to authorize this group, but with the exploration. What I suggested 4 months ago, I think this is a board responsibility and gathering community input through multiple vehicles. And I suggested that time 4 months ago that this could have been completed by October. So I will be voting against this.
Any other comments or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And David, you already said you're opposed.
I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion to appoint board liaison to the master plan advisory group.
And I would like to be.
Make a motion for Jared and Celia to be
Seconded.
I didn't want to.
You're right. Okay, so we have a motion that both Jared and Celia are the two board liaisons to the Master Plan Advisory Group. Motion's made by Charles, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, David abstains. Okay. Motion to approve MBV Engineering Inc. as the owner representative for the CCFC field report. Was it?
Jared
Jared?
made the motion, Charles seconded.
I'll just add, there was a owner comment previously. The reason I am recommending this is because this is the organization that originally told us not to do what we did. And so we're going to them because now we need to do what they told us first.
And we engaged with two other engineering firms. One of them said they're not interested. Well, we reached out to a bunch of different engineering firms. Only 3 of them responded to us. MBB was the one that gave us the bid. Orange engineering firm keeps saying they're going to give me a bid and I never get it. And then the third one said they're not interested. The LTG group was a group that we had originally walked with many months ago that is just very knowledgeable in athletic fields. And so I just thought for informational purposes for the board, I'd share the number that they provided.
But they gave contractor numbers,
They gave contractor numbers.
which
Yes.
I expect MVB will give us,
They
as
will.
owner's rep will give us those.
Yes,
They
they
will
will.
just have to- Okay, so yes.
So one thing, going back when at the emergency meeting, I think when we first talked about this, there was a discussion around Grand Manners with the vendor. You guys have the vendor management arm. It was originally thought that you guys would have the owner's rep handle this. What was the reason, just so we are all on the same page, for going in this different direction now?
I wasn't comfortable using vendor services as the owner's rep for this, based on a number of the conversations I had with them. And I don't want to put words in the board's mouth, but you guys met with them and I don't think there was a lot of appetite there either, which is another reason why there was a delay in getting this owner repping moving forward, because we investigated that route first.
Any other comments?
Just for clarity, what we're approving is $19,600. And it's for design, and they've already articulated some of the options. But it's really design.
Yeah, it's designed and going out to bid.
And then, so it's prepared to go out to bid. Is that correct? And then we find out what the real costs to do it would be.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody good? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Moving on. Motion to approve the Florida Native / Pollinator Garden at Deerwoods Park by Exquisite in the amount of $106,351. That's some really good news here. But do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Well. Discussion, Lauren, you want to give them the good news?
So after talking with Brian about what the number would be if all the labor was donated by GM staff and the civic groups that were interested in participating, and I know a couple of board members have told me that they were interested in participating, the total amount comes down to $53,935.
I have a question about that. Who is, when the plants die a month after they get planted by volunteers, who is warranting that work? Brian?
He's gonna supervise the
You want
volunteers.
to say that in the microphone?
The volunteers are just laying rocks and mulch.
And first of all, let me say thank you for donating your time and your services and your expertise on this. This is that aside.
I think we need a round of applause for him and the Grand Manners coming up with $3,000.
So we're gonna, on that, the expertise and everything, we're gonna defer to the gardening club of Celebration. We want to utilize their knowledge, their experience, and they have a lot of knowledgeable people on design and layout of these beds. And then, yeah, the number that Lauren just shared for you, I think we can achieve that. I think we can get enough volunteer work between the gardening club, the Boy Scouts, Grand Manners, really, if anyone's listening, any entity in Celebration that wants to donate their time to be involved in this community garden, it's just going to be awesome. So if we can do that, yeah, we're going to organize it. We'll order all the plant material. We'll have it all delivered. My team, I'll donate their time myself to overseeing the installation of the plant material. And yeah, we'll warranty the material. One thing to remember though with pollinator garden like this is these plants are food. Not food for us, but food for the insects. So at certain times, plants like Asclepias, which is the main food for the monarch butterfly, will be completely defoliated because those caterpillars will eat it all before they go into chrysalis.
They won't die.
But then they won't die and they'll come back. And we have a great tree canopy in that park that will protect a lot of these plants from frost damage. Very unlikely for us to get a freeze type damage. And in the front half of the park is more in sunlight, which will give us what we need for the pollinator plants. The back half of the park is more of a stronger tree canopy, which will give us that background of a lot of what you see in the conservation around Celebration, but we want to use the prettier plants. Saw palmetto, American beautyberry, stuff like that. Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the 1,100 plants, the quantity 1,100? What are they?
We would need to see the map that shows all the sections.
Yeah, the map.
Just want to
Just
know
the-
what
You just
1,100.
have the 6 zones or 8 zones, right? That's
4,300 square feet of them.
Yeah, I know.
North
that's-
Street that they're putting in.
Section C.
Yeah, what is the plant?
It's all mixed plants. I think we put a sampling of some of the stuff. It might have been attached on a
It was
separate.
in a future
email.
comment earlier.
So in the front half, we have plants like the Asclepias, which is milkweed, firebush, Racelia, porterweed, blue porterweed, red porterweed, firecracker.
That's okay. You don't have to remember.
And just there's a lot. The back half is
make up a word and we won't know the
I
difference.
know, right? The hibbity jibbity.
Lauren, do you have this? Do you have what the ABCD is and the 1 through 9? Do you have that in another document?
I know we have it. I think it originally was Natalie, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking through my.
It
email
was
that I
in the
reviewed.
last board packet when we approved the trees that it was in the, yeah, something.
Oh, the proposal for this came with that.
Any other
Yeah.
Along with trees, we had an incident out there when we were trimming trees. And so that everyone knows, we have 3 trees that we're pulling away from the old model home that Mattamy had set up in Island Village at Coastal Court. To give you an idea, most of the townhomes in Island Village have maybe 7 trees around them. This one has like 18. And these trees, these are mature oak trees, are about 6 feet off of the building. So they need to be removed. The intent is, I believe, to remove the trees from the service area. And instead of throwing them away, flush cutting them and grinding the stump, to donate the trees to the garden club. And in turn, they would be planted in a CROA park. So we want to put one of those oak trees in the middle of Deer Woods Park to help revive some of the canopy that's in there, but spaced out appropriately.
Did you put it in East Village, the playground?
We have 2 others. So there's 3 oak trees coming out of here. So Oak Pond Park lost a lot of trees over the past 2 years. I'd like to put one in there. And then the East Village Playground, there's a lot of discussion about, trees and stuff there. I'd love to put one on the perimeter of that park as well. So, I mean, that's 3 locations, three really good sized trees. They're over 20 feet tall and more than 10 feet wide.
David?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, Brian, thank you for all your expertise on this. You use the term community garden. And that's not what this is, correct? This is not where residents go and plant tomatoes.
Correct. No, it's not a vegetable garden. It's just
To
a
be
garden
clear
in
with
the
that.
community.
This is a pollinator, whatever you call it, really.
Correct. Much like the garden club takes care of section of Memorial Park now.
Right.
We would welcome,
Right.
if the Boy Scouts wanted to adopt a bed to take care of, as well Exquisite would, or Exquisite, if we're ever replaced, any entity past that would still be responsible for maintaining all of
But
the.
it's all about pollinators, so there may be some sponsorship. The other thing is, when you talk about some of the plantings with leaves dying off, that's great for the 25 people in the room. But ongoing education, I think, will be important. I think this is a message to Lauren and the staff. And then if it's feasible and if we need ARC approval, maybe some signage around periodically, maybe those can change. It says, this is the time of year when things are whatever, thinking about education along the way.
It's the beauty of this garden in particular is living and breathing, much like all the other gardens. But if this garden becomes a success, it could be a pathway to more gardens like this or gardens parallel to this. It could invite more seating in this area. It could invite the garden club to do plant identification tours,
right?
Stuff like that.
It's a great partnership and using their expertise. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Lauren, there were 3 questions for you. So last year, I was under the impression there were grants.
We were looking into the grants. We hadn't applied for any or designated any. That was the original intent.
So the died on the vine.
Yeah. It's just, it was not a feasible option.
Yeah.
So we were trying to think of alternatives.
Right now, keep looking, but right now we're voting to. Yeah, that leads into the next question. Funding source reserve funds. This sounds an awful lot like a capital improvement.
So it's a landscaping revamp of the park. It's what we did in a lot of the parks last year. We changed things around in some of the parks and updated a lot of the plants. So it does fall under a reserve item.
So then, obviously, in the study with changing these out, are we going to have to replace these more frequently, or what does that look like just down the road with all these pollinator plants?
I would have to ask the reserve thing, and
That's what concerns me. Like if we're changing all this out, we're talking about reserves.
So
we got that out.
Yeah, we have a lot of these plants that'll be going in there. Some of the things like Thorpe firebush, they're not exhausted by any kind of pollinator. Firecracker as well. There are certain ones that they will defoliate, like the milkweed. That when I used to be on the Facebook pages, I would see people constantly asking, "Does anyone have any more milkweed? I need more milkweed." So they will defoliate those, but the hope is that bed A is not 100 milkweed, and then it's completely defoliated. So you'll have firecracker mixed in there. You'll have firebush mixed in there.
How long is that going to take for that to look like that? How long? When are we going to have to replace these, and what's the cost going to be?
I don't think there's going to be really replacement, more regeneration. So while they're regenerating, the other plants in this bed basically pick up the slack on aesthetics.
Any other question? Okay.
Do we need to amend the motion with this new dollar value?
Yes.
Yes. So it's 50,
yeah, you can.
So it's 53.
Now, I will say the opportune time to plant this is going to be the beginning of spring. So that gives us plenty of time to organize all the help, coordinate it, if it's going to be multiple planting days and stuff like that.
So 53,935.
Yeah. So Celia, do you amend your motion? To 53,935, and Bill, that you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm opposed.
Thank you. Okay. Motion to publish the proposed 2024 budgets to the residents for final approval at the October board meeting. So motion?
Motion for yes, discussion.
Motion, Jared.
So I will note with the adjusted pool contract number that you just approved, it brings down the assessment increase to a 3.6% or a full year increase of $41.54 for your total annual dues is $1,208.45.
What's the annual increase?
$41.54, or 3.6% instead of the 3.9% that it was previously.
For $1,200.
$1,208.45.
This has the porters, right? The two porters?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 175 in interest revenue that we changed at the last meeting.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. For that in your mail, folks.
I think finance committee did a good job
Mm-hmm.
helping push this along.
Moving on to fee waivers. You have a motion?
Motion to approve fee waivers.
Second.
Any discussion?
Management recommended all of those.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, next one, resident request to remove account from collections. This is rather unusual. Do I have a motion?
Good. Or
You
could
want
you
to
give us just a brief thumbnail on this?
So this is a resident that also has a condo association that is run by Grand Manners. So they were getting two different bills from Grand Manners. They were only paying one of them because they were confused and did not realize that they had two different assessments from two different Grand Manners run communities. So it's trying to see what else was put in there in terms of
Well,
information.
what I didn't understand was it was getting paid, it was paid for the entire 2022, and then all of a sudden,
I'm just relaying what the resident shared with us.
So when did Grand Manners take over?
2021, November.
No, not here in the.
They were there previously. I don't know when that contract started. Several years ago, Harry.
So what
Educated audience.
is there, have there been negotiations in terms of settling the account if it comes out of collections?
Yeah, they're ready to pay it. They just,
but we,
So
but,
So they're paying, and this is just to get it off the credit report.
well, but it's gonna cost us
It's gonna cost us
$271.
$271.
Yeah.
And collection, assessment collections never go on a credit report.
Oh, tell me one now.
So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Charles? Second?
I'll second it.
Tim? Any other comments, questions?
I'll add that if there's a judgment, it will show up somewhere.
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Intent to lien fee waiver request. We're talking about $105 here. Have a motion? Wait,
Second.
Charles and Jim. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, that's 9 conversions. Have a motion?
I'll get some background check.
know what you're converting. So now that Covenants is up and running and
I'm not the only one.
now that Covenants is up and running smoothly, you actually have fines on people's, you have fines ready to be put onto people's accounts because they have been unpaid. They have passed their appeals window and this allows us to convert them into assessments, put them on their books, and then they're collectible by your collections attorney.
Okay.
Did I say that right, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Celia, second?
Jared.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Non-compliance list. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Second.
Sorry, who was second?
Charles made the motion, Jared.
Second, Charles, Jared. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Discussion items. It is 20 minutes to 9-ish. Shall we discuss?
I'd like to move to push all the discussion items
the next month.
Agreed.
Motion by Jim, second by David. Somebody really not want to do that? Want to talk about the mini tour real fast?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion from Jim and a second from David. Postpone all the discussion items till next month's agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I did want to talk about the contract thing that we asked on.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We talked about, I will be very quick. It won't be just your questions that will hold us up, so. Related to the playgrounds, we are revisiting our general contractor agreement, our services agreement, and writing in a few new things. So there is a breach of agreement clause that gives contractors the option to either pay liquidated damages, which means they will pay 0.5% of the contract every day that they don't finish past the completion day. Or they can choose to provide a bond for performance. If they don't complete the work, we go to their insurance and say, hey, you got to pay to do this. So those are the two options they have. The topic for discussion here is that there are different values for this. I recommend Tom and I recommended $100,000 for service areas and $250,000 for CROA. For those would be the levels where we would require these types of things. It's lower for service areas because they have less volume and so therefore would have less scope. Like a roof on a service area would be less than we're doing every roof that CROA would be responsible for. So that's what those two levels are.
Question.
Yes.
Will this negatively impact bidders? In other words, this bidders going to look at this and say, we don't want to bid because that's too prohibitive to our business. So I think you're going to see, at least if contractors choose a performance bond, you're going to see an increase in your contract price. So when you ask negatively, it may impact those who are not willing to even entertain either option, or it will increase the cost of the contract because they're going to have to secure a surety bond in order to comply with the contract terms. And we had included, because Jared and I had talked about the idea, we want to know what that cost is, because we don't want to pay a percentage on top of it. We just want to know what the actual cost is. I agree with the language. Yeah. Make sure that
But
you're right. Scare people away.
Yeah, some people may say, no, we don't want to do it. That's possible.
I'm confused by the difference in the, it's lesser for the service areas because you said that
So here's what happened. So this is the thinking behind it, and you can agree or disagree. It's fine.
Yeah, this is open for complete discussion.
Yeah, this is the variable. Mm-hmm. So you may say, CROA is going to repair the 851 building, right? And so we have a higher threshold for that because the entire community is sharing in the cost.
Gotcha.
And therefore they're also sharing in the risk. If something bad happens, you have the full community that ends up sharing the risk. If you have one service area, and we've had this before, it's doing a roof repair, mm-hmm. and it's a limited number of service area owners, mm-hmm. and so there's a limited pot, and there's also an increased risk for them. So lowering the threshold for that to create that protection. Yes, there's also again the choice and possibly an increased cost, but there's also that increased protection. So my throwing out idea was you would lower the threshold for service areas because it would be a better protection for them because they face more risk. So that's the thinking behind it. But there may be a perfectly valid reason to go the reverse way or to make it the same.
As soon as you said the first sentence, like, oh, I got it.
Yeah, I was just worried because we've experienced lower costs for service areas, but then you have, oh my gosh, you only have like 15 homeowners, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden they're facing this increased problem. They probably appreciate it.
Yeah.
The other thing was and we don't have to act on any of this. I just want this to be public comment and conversation, and then we'll send this out once I'm making another revision also. Adding something for subcontractors so that if anyone does use a subcontractor, they have to disclose that up front. And we have to approve that, and our contract has to be included, which was something that we didn't have previously. And the last thing was requiring lien waivers with every progress payment. So if they do $10,000 worth of work, they have to say, here's a release on the $10,000 so that they our liability with them shrinks with every payment that they get.
There's some comparable or running at the same time statutory requirements for that, but it's nice just to put it in the contract and make it clear that, hey, this is our expectation.
So are there, I'm sorry. So are there situations when a vendor will start a job and immediately put a lien on your property?
They'll start with a subcontractor could put a notice to owner. So we could have a contractor on the property and that contractor hires a sub.
Okay.
And that sub, as we had with the parks, sends a notice to owner saying, hey, I'm the sub that you never heard about before and didn't approve. And now they have the right to lien the property if they do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's addressing up front. They're supposed to send a notice to owner anyway, but we want to know who they are and we want to understand, we want them to understand the relationship and that the contract is still responsible for what the sub does. And so we're all on clear notice.
So it's more with subcontractors.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
part
they're
about liens and
They're a
material.
third party.
Yeah, because you also have, like with the just again using the parts, you have suppliers that supply material, and you may not necessarily know who they are because the contractor paid for the equipment, and then they have a lien right against your property. So you'd like to know who you're dealing with before you write a check to the contractor and find out there's a surprise.
So this is the contract that we intend to use on the playgrounds, but it'll go to everyone for review before it's done. And then this will become what we use going forward.
If you like the language, the big question for you left is where do you want to start requiring this? And I think to Bill's point, you have to consider that, which is how is that going to impact the number of and quality of companies that are going to bid? Because it will have some impact. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be, but you may experience, some people not bidding, and you may have to adjust it. But the threshold number, I think is a big question, even if you like the projections.
Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn, or do we have any board comments that people have to?
I want to say something.
Go ahead.
Paul, do you want to say something?
You want to go first?
Yes, please complete your surveys. If you haven't, we sent them out on Wednesday. I think we've received 529. So please complete them. Tell your neighbors to complete them.
I just had somebody tell me in the parking lot today that they never got one. If you did not get one,
Please.
please contact the town hall.
Please contact town hall. Tell your neighbors to complete it. I don't want to speak for the board. I will be reading every one of them. I assume everyone here is very.
I thought you were going to consolidate it and put it all in a nice little easy package for us.
We need to talk about that.
No.
Yeah. Please complete the survey. That's all. Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to thank Lauren for doing an outstanding job getting everything together. Brian, Jose, this Grandma's team that's on site. Because they take the brunt of what maybe corporate should take sometimes. So thank you for what you do.
When I ran out of time, I was gonna sing praises to Grand Manners and to.
Well, thank you on behalf of Lauren and us, because we think they're great.
Obviously to you for approving, but.
And I think we had a good board meeting tonight.
So, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Charles, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.